Hey guys, this is the Wolverine doll. This is gonna be an informative style video on Darksydephil, aka DSP, Phil Burnell, PP Burnell, the guy, David, fucking Grug. He has many names. The circle of detractors that surround him are called the Snortex, and this is an Iceberg style video for, like, if you hear something in the Snortex that don't make sense, rather than going in chronological order, I'm gonna be listing this shit in descending order of likelihood you've heard about it. Alright, let's do this like Brutus. Level 1, Introduction to DSP. May the Burst. If you know anything about Darksydephil, you probably know that he's the guy who accidentally left the camera on while he yeeted his meat for all to see. This was on May 1st, 2016. That's why that day is a detractor holiday known as May the Burst. There was a briefly lived excuse that he was just scratching his leg, but that quickly fell into his memory hole. He doesn't say that anymore. Incidentally, this is also why he's known as the guy, because he was playing Friday the 13th, the game, and some teammate in the voice chat recognized him and called him as such. The guy is short for the guy who spanked it in front of thousands of children. Nothing I could do / I did nothing wrong. If you know two things about DSP, the second one is probably that he's a real fucking sore loser. He likes making excuses even for the most petty of setbacks. So both nothing I could do and I did nothing wrong, I did everything correct have become two of his best known catchphrases. This extends past gaming into extremely minor everyday failures, like the time he opened a bottle of water and spilled some on himself and claimed that it was the factory's fault for overfilling the bottle. This is what psychological style detractors might refer to as an external locus of control. The guy is never the master of his own fate. This is how you don't play. It kind of sucks for him that he can't take a loss, because he's real fucking bad at games. In 2012, Evil AJ made a video called This Is How You Don't Play Metal Gear Solid 2, showing Philip really sucking ass at it, and this inspired a wave of imitators. Philip likes to say that this is the moment that everyone stopped loving him and started hating him, but that's not true. He's always been clowned on. And if your fans turn on you on the drop of a hat like that, you have to ask if they were ever really yours. Begging. If you know three things about this guy, the third one is that he begs for money all the time and it's really fucking obnoxious. While anyone else with as few viewers as him would not be able to make a living off of streaming, he's found this small group of pay pigs that will pony up whenever he puts the squeeze on them for more money. It's led to him having the highest ratio of dollars contributed per member on most of the platforms he's ever streamed on. Philip will tell you that he doesn't beg for money because he keeps making these new weird private definitions of what begging is so that they exclude him. But he does it literally every day. Just watch him on stream, or better yet, watch a restream of him. It probably won't take you more than a few minutes to catch the guy begging like a crackhead. WWE Champions. Phil is addicted to this mobile game called WWE Champions. It's Candy Crush with WrestleMen. It's made by Scopely, one of the most sleazy and predatory mobile game developers out there. Phil has spent shocking amounts of money on this game, like tens of thousands of dollars a year, probably adding up to over $200,000 at this point. There's a guy named TJ Gamebox who follows the exploits of Philip's account down from the rafters and uses his knowledge of the game to estimate about how much the guy has spent on each weekly event. We know that it's him because it originally had the same name as his Twitter handle, They Call Me DSP, and he used an app called Line to tie his account to his phone number to group chat with his guild buddies. That's the most definitive piece of evidence that this is him. Phil has lied about this account in many different ways. For a while, he simply said it wasn't his account and it was just a coincidence. Then he said it was his account, but that he sold it illegally to somebody else. I think that's where the lie stands now. Project 7. In 2012, DSP experimented with scripted sketch comedy with the help from his then friends John Rambo, no relation, and Howard. Phil never properly compensated these guys for their work. He also never paid Respect the Pact, a group that edited Project 7 for him. Phil would lie to all of these people and say Project 7 wasn't making money, even as he was leasing BMWs and buying expensive gamer statues of characters he didn't even know. The whole fiasco was kind of the last hurrah for Philip having real friends. The show itself is boring as shit. It is everything you ever hated about those sketches that game reviewers used to insert into their reviews from like 2006 to 2012, but if it was just that and no review. It did give us a few important moments though. For example, the Project 7 turnaround, Philip waddling in a circle in what he presumably thinks is a natural motion. It also gave us a really good full body run cycle for Philip, which really helps you visualize how he gets from place to place. Robust. If you've ever heard a YouTuber like Matt McMuscles use the word robust in a way that seemed really weird, they might just be referencing DSP.
Welcome back, warriors, to another meaningful and robust round of the worst fighting game.
The word robust is now strongly associated with the guy, used heavily in the Snortex. Philip himself mostly only uses the word when talking about food, and even then only when he's trying to be classy and feels he can't say the word yummy. Meaningful. This is one of Philip's favorite words, much more so than robust. Phil likes to say that his content is different from everyone else's because it's meaningful content. It's unclear what he thinks the meaning of his content is. When Stuttering Craig asked him point blank what he means by meaningful in the Side-Scrollers interview, Phil danced around the question and settled on the answer of, "Sometimes I eat food."
I love my job now.
What does meaningful mean? What does that, like, walk me through? What is that? What value are you adding to your audience's experience to further that meaningful relationship that you're offering?
I have a series. I know this sounds stupid, but my fans love this. It's called Feasting with the King. Basically, I order a meal and I eat a meal with my audience. They think it's funny because they think it's funny to see me eat. I look stupid. They say I look like I'm in pain when I eat. They like making fun of me, right?
One time during a Q&A segment, a LARPer asked Philip about his thoughts on incest and whether it might ever be ethically justifiable. Phil gave a truly insane answer about how he thinks the problem with incest is that it's not meaningful because you've already spent a lot of time with your family, so you should be sick of them by now and want to be with someone else.
When it comes to who on earth are we going to be romantic with? If you're someone you've already grown up with, someone who spent a significant amount of your time with, a brother, a sister, a family member already, right? Doesn't really have much meaning, does it? In my opinion, like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, of all the people who I'd want to spend the rest of my life with, it's not the people I spent my young years with. You know what I mean? Like, listen, I love my family, but for me to have a romantic relationship with someone for the rest of my life, I want to have someone who I went out there and I found someone who was meaningful to spend time with. Listen, do you like to get together with your family around the holidays or for special events or whatever? Keep them close? Sure.
Ack, ack, ack. This is the preferred transcription for how Philip laughs. This is when he's actually laughing and not fake laughing. His fake laugh is something different, and it's called the goat laugh. Ack, ack, ack is more like a seal laugh.
Let's head into the volcano.
His throat completely closes repeatedly, and he seems to be in some distress. But no, he's probably just enjoying some racist remark he just made. He'll be just fine. The King of Hate. This was Philip's nickname in the fighting game community back when he still went to tournaments. Obviously, he got it for being a real hateful little shit son. He couldn't take a loss even then, and there's video evidence of him throwing angry hissy fits in response to minor inconveniences. Philip tries to retcon this and say that the moniker always referred to the hate coming toward him and how he would use it as motivation to be better. Nobody believes this but Philip. He doesn't have that kind of stoic, reserved, living well as the best revenge personality. Phil tried to retire this nickname after he lost his Teespring account, apparently because they thought he was the leader of some kind of hate group. Oh, Philip, the nickname isn't why people think you're racist. It's all the racism. Gout. It's only fitting that the King of Hate should be afflicted with the disease of kings. That's right. Our boy has gout. He claims that he inherited it from his aunt, which either means he doesn't know how genetics works or he has a very strange family tree, more of a family wreath. Our boy tries to keep his gout under control by eating a lot of ground turkey instead of ground beef, and drinking tart cherry juice, which is an old-timey folk remedy for gout that doesn't work. If he really wanted to prevent another flare-up, the biggest thing he could do is stop drinking so much, but we know that's not gonna happen. Our boy loves his gin. Dead Space 2. So by this point, we've mentioned a couple times that Phil is racist, and you may be wondering, what form does that take? That's a term that gets bandied around a lot, and it can mean things of very different severity. Like, maybe he just doesn't seem to have friends who aren't like him, or maybe he's used some terminology that's fallen out of fashion, but in an innocent way. You know, everyday faux pas that a senior citizen might blunder into. No, it's not like that. Maybe I should just show the clip.
This is what happens when you let the Jews do whatever they want. You've let the Jews overrun space, and now look at this. Their greed has had the artifact turn everyone into necromorphs.
This little escapade got Philip thrown off of blip.tv when that was still a thing. Good on them. The Vest Streak. Philip likes to reward his pay pigs for doing what is expected of them. He comes up with weird ideas for how to do so. The most iconic of these is when he decided that if he received $150 in tips, he would wear a vest. That's right. Philly boy put in some time as a reverse stripper. For a few months in 2020, Phil's viewers were highly motivated by the prospect of making their guy wear clothes, and he managed to hit the vest goal for a long, uninterrupted string of streams. It started in February. It should have ended in June, but he was counting it wrong. And then in September, he finally threw in the towel. He doesn't wear vests anymore and gets angry at the idea that anyone would still want him to. This is despite the fact that during the vest streak, he insisted that his vest was an important symbol of his career. He even cried about it.
And so this vest is a symbol of that positivity. It's a symbol that together we can have fun as long as we stay positive and we can overcome anything together. I firmly believe at this point in my life, all right, that no matter what comes my way, that we can work together to overcome it, all right? But that being said...
I think the turning point was when he was playing Street Fighter in a vest, and the overheated sensation brought him uncomfortably close to the feeling of working a day in his life. 4th place at EVO. In 2005, Philip got as high as he was ever gonna get as a professional fighting game player. He went to Evolution, the granddaddy of fighting game tournaments, and played the butchered PlayStation 1 port of Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. A lot of the best players of the arcade version of this game didn't go to this tournament because the port was so bad. And Philip never caught a whiff of any kind of success like this afterward, confirming that it was in fact just a fluke. Because the 3 players who placed above him were all Japanese, he started saying that he was the best Super Turbo player in America, which is not how that works. Like, imagine if an American team and a Canadian team were playing each other in the Stanley Cup Finals, and the Canadians won, and the Americans started saying that they were the best hockey team in America. Nobody gives a shit. It's not divided that way. Anyway, this is why some detractors covet the position of 4th place at anything, and will sometimes call it first in the nation. DSP versus VTubers. Now and then Philip will go viral outside of the Snortex, introducing lots of new people to his goofy antics. A notable example compared his ham-handed attempts to solve a basic puzzle in The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, comparing it to a VTuber, Amelia Watson, who did it much better.
That's a lot of balls. What are we doing with these balls?
Gonna scoop them?
Can we grab them? Yes, we can.
We're making like a
There's... Huh?
excavator?
Are we just putting all the balls in here or something? Once again, I'm just supposed to magically know what we're doing, even though the game has absolutely no explanation for anything. I can't grab the platform.
Yeah.
Is it a pressure plate? I mean, that's a lot of tedious work. Why would we do it that way?
Gold.
Right? What is the puzzle here? Why do we even need this thing?
Yeah.
For the record, I have no idea if this is what we're supposed to be doing.
This is a fair comparison because VTubers are also streamers who are there more to be entertaining than to demonstrate high-level gameplay. So they're doing sort of the same thing as Philip, they're just doing it better. Snorting. Guy snorts a lot. It's disgusting. This is the reason it's called the Snortex and why his house is called the Snort Fort. He claims that he can't help it and that this is a symptom of his chronic post-nasal drip. But if that's true, then he also has some weird medical condition that paralyzes his hands when he snorts, so he can't press the mute button. He won't even lean away from the mic. In fact, he leans in. He wants you to savor it. Also, whenever he's talking live with someone, like when he's being interviewed or when his wife's in the room, he never snorts once. This is definitive proof that he does it on purpose as an expression of contempt for his pay pigs when they don't pony up. Level 2. Enthusiasts know it. We're getting into some of the weird shit now. Into that DSP deep lore. If someone said something that went right over your head and it related to P.P. Burnell, it's probably in this tier or lower. Where am I playing? You still haven't told me. You know how I said we have video evidence of Phil being a hateful little shit son in the wild? This is the best known example of that. Phil was at a fighting game tournament and he was taping someone else's game so that he could put it on his channel for content. When a tournament organizer tells him to knock it off and go to the game he's supposed to be playing, he makes some angry excuses.
DSP, stop recording. No one gives a shit. Play. You can't hold up a tournament. One man for DSP to report this match is disqualified.
Where am I playing? You still haven't told me!
Phil is technically the one holding the camera here, but he seems to forget that. You get a real cinema verite feel of just Phil being Phil, not putting on a face for company. David Burnell. This is Philip's dad. He actually seems to be a pretty cool guy, and having Phil just happens to have been his worst achievement in life. He worked in aerospace. He worked at a helicopter company called Sikorsky Aircraft for a while, and he got Phil a cushy Nepo baby job there, but Phil couldn't hold on to it. Nowadays, he goes fishing a lot and sends Phil unsolicited fish pics that make Phil angry. Phil seems to want nothing out of his parents except their money. Also, you'll hear Phil referred to as Dave Burnell sometimes. This is a relic of an attempt to rustle Phil's jimmies by importing a method that worked on Wings of Redemption. Because a lot of Wings' viewers thought the name Jordy Jordan sounded fake, they tried doxing him and looking up his address, and they found the name of some guy named Richard who used to live there. They then decided that Wings was Richard. It was never funny, but it did make Wings mad. So someone attempted the same thing on Phil's old address in Connecticut, but all they found was Dave Burnell, his dad. This never really made Phil angry in the same way. Linda Burnell. This is Phil's mommy. She's a much richer source of memes than her husband, and she seems much more responsible than David for creating the PP Burnell we know and love today. She's a chain smoker, and by Philip's own admission, she did not stop smoking while pregnant with him. That couldn't have been great for our little guy. Another thing Phil has admitted that I wouldn't admit under torture is that his mother combed his hair for him until he was 16 or 17 years old. Phil blames this for his uneven hairline today. As a wee one, Phil was referred to by his school chums as Phil with the oddly shaped head. The back of his head is quite flat, and it's speculated that this is because Linda left him on his back too often while she went out for some Newports. Never gave baby Phil any tummy time. The Wolverine doll. Well, we're getting into stories from Phil's childhood that reflect on his relationship with his parents and with authority in general. Now we get to the funniest fucking story in the entire Snortex. You did it. We're here.
So, toys are for kids, right?
You see, young Philip really wanted this Wolverine action figure that was for sale at a local comic book store, but he knew it was going to sell out fast because this was the 90s and everyone was creaming their jeans for Logan. So he told Dave and Linda that he wanted that doll for his birthday, but that they should buy it now and hide it until his birthday came around.
What happened back then is that because the comic book fad was so big, other things that were offshoots of comic books also became collectible and highly valued.
They didn't do it. By the time they tried, it was already sold out, presumably because they were busy doing more important things. Phil did not take this well. He threw a fucking hissy fit, and his emotions never matured with age. This story still makes him mad.
So my birthday came and passed, and guess what? My parents go, "We're very sorry, Philip, but we couldn't find the action figure." I said, "I told you to buy the figure. Why don't you listen to me?"
He thinks that it should be an object lesson to parents about how they should listen to their children and buy them all the dolls they want.
So, I give you this advice. If you're a parent and your kid definitely tells you they want something and you see it ahead of time, you fucking buy it.
Like, this is another story that no amount of detractor research ever would have turned up, but Phil shared it with a full heart because he still believes he was in the right. This is so funny that certain unhinged YouTubers would go on to name themselves after it. The Snort Fort. So now we know that Phil's house is called the Snort Fort, but now we should get into why it's notable to talk about his house at all. It's located in a gated community, which Phil insistently refers to as a private community because he's a giant tool. If half of the things Philip has said while begging for money are true, the Snort Fort is a fucking wreck. Phil has never heard the adage, "Don't shit where you sleep." He displays no regard for the conditions he makes himself live in. 2 of the Snort Fort's 3 bathrooms have been non-functional for many years and have been covered in trash bags to remind Philip and his wife not to use them. They have a black mold problem, maybe from water leaking into the walls from the fucked up bathrooms. For a while, the garage was filled with used styrofoam containers from all their DoorDash orders. Some of the DMs that Philip has released suggest that the Snort Fort might be full of animals we've never seen, some of which might violate both the rules of his homeowners association and the laws of the great state of Washington. Sometimes there will be a loud bird chirping in one of Philip's videos, but Philip claims that he has a neighbor that sounds exactly like a bird, so that's where that comes from. T. Carter. So you might have heard that Philip killed someone named T. Carter. You might be wondering, how the hell did he do that? Well, it was more inaction, and Philip really couldn't have foreseen the consequences of standing idle. So T. Carter was this other friend that Philip had in the Connecticut fighting game community. Everyone seems to agree he was a pretty cool guy. Maybe the coolest guy who ever voluntarily spoke to Philip. One day Philip refused to give T a ride somewhere he was going. This could have been related to Philip's pathological fear of driving on the highway, which we'll get a little bit into later, but it could have just been pure laziness. Anyway, that night T. Carter would be shot to death by somebody. Phil would memorialize T in monetized streams where he fake cried and overstated his relationship with T. This widened the rift between Philip and his other friends, Howard and Rambo. They thought it was disgusting that Philip would exploit a man's death for clout and money. Philip didn't seem to understand the nature of their grievances. His defense was that he didn't even make that much money. That may be true, but it wasn't for lack of trying. Style. This is another word that can identify a detractor if you hear someone in the wild using it in a weird and kind of unnatural way. It's a hallmark of Philip's personal dialect of English, sometimes known as Piglish. In English, the word style might refer to a trend, a technique, or just a sense of fashion. But in Piglish, the word style is just kind of a warning that a noun is coming after an adjective. For example, Phil doesn't go to Asian restaurants, he goes to Asian-style restaurants.
From, say, like almost like an Asian-style restaurant.
Dense. Dents, or dent heads, is the detractor term for people who unironically like Darksydephil's content. Yes, these people do exist. They're called that because of Madara, one of Darksydephil's former mods who had a literal dent in his head that he did not hesitate to discuss and share with the world. As for the rest of them, all of them that we know anything about seem to have something or other deeply wrong with them, which you might expect from someone who considers e-begging and eating fast food to be peak entertainment. There have been quite a few of these guys over the years, but I'll just go over a few of the more notable ones. First off is Jade. Very well known, rather divisive figure, but very recognizable because of his idiosyncratic style of typing in chat. The guy talks like a cartoon caveman. Something that Philip always gives him a pass for, even though he will pretend not to understand anyone else's chat if it has the slightest spelling or punctuation errors. Credit where it's due, Jade will sometimes disagree with Phil, and whenever this happens, Jade is always right, and Phil is always wrong. Despite being a special little guy, Jade is objectively a smarter man than Philip. Derek Ip, the Canadian Coomer. This is the most infamous of the dentheads, a figure despised even by other dentheads, but sheltered endlessly by Philip as though Derek were his son. Derek is a sex pest. All of his public-facing social media is full of very disturbing things. He's got playlists on YouTube of small children, like small children. The playlists have upsetting names. This guy's a fucking creep. Philip was finally bullied into banning Derek by the Kino Casino boys. We'll see if that sticks. Philip dragged his heels about it the whole way. He defended Derek more than his own wife when they made fun of her. Minor note, Derek pronounces his own name as Derish and insists that most other people pronounce it that way, including the porn stars he harasses. I'm not going to pronounce it that way because Derek gets sexual satisfaction over having his name pronounced correctly, and I do not consent to being a part of that, so he is Derek forever. Only Iced Coffee is a longtime supporter who seems to be supporting Philip with the eventual goal of seducing him. Now, this isn't entirely out of left field because both of the women that Philip has ever been with started as dents. OIC has used many pseudonyms over the years, and at one point bullied the mods of DSP's secret Discord into being made a mod, but then eventually lost it again. Canadian Kirk is a racist piece of shit who also uses a lot of sock accounts, but not by choice, because he keeps getting banned by YouTube and other platforms for virulent racism. Phil doesn't care about that, though. All he cares about is that the money keeps coming in. Hateful slurs. Speaking of that kind of thing, let's talk about how Philip got demonetized on Twitch. Yeah, they booted him off of the Twitch partner program for hateful slurs, a phrase that he repeated in very memorable fashion.
So we did an investigation, and basically, during our investigation, we have determined that you have used hateful slurs.
However, afterward, that scene started to fall into Philip's memory hole. The memory grew weaker over time, and the phrase hateful slurs became blurrier, muddier. He started using euphemisms like harmful speech until it just disappeared entirely, and now he doesn't remember at all why they banned him and thinks they did it for no reason. Argentina. Detractors live in many nations, but we rally to one flag, the flag of the great nation of Argentina. This is because some detractors discovered an exploit in YouTube's gifted membership system, where these memberships are priced on a curve. Depending on your IP address and the type of currency you're using, you're paying a price that is very different. This is so that viewers in countries where the currency is worth less will still buy memberships. So people started using VPNs and buying hundreds of DSP gaming memberships using Argentinian pesos, which only enriched Phil by a few cents. This had the desired effect of infuriating him. Bankruptcy fraud. So in 2020, our boy's problematic spending habits finally caught up to him, and he had to declare bankruptcy. Most of his debt was absolved other than perhaps his back taxes, and he didn't lose the snort for it. He only lost the condo in Connecticut that he never sold before moving. Because bankruptcies are a matter of public record, this forced Philip to reveal a fair amount of information to the curious public. They noticed some anomalies in the papers he had filed. For example, he claimed to have owned no electronics, even though the bankruptcy hearing was happening on a Zoom call, and he claimed to own no pets. I guess Jasper counts as his son. He also claimed that he spends $5,000 a month on unitemized business expenses. No one knows what the hell that could be unless our boy is telling a little fib and claiming that the amount he spends on WWE champions is for his business. It's not completely certain that the guy is guilty of criminal fraud in this case, but it seems so likely that I have placed it far above the other theories in this video. In his defense, Philip will claim that the judge ruled that everything was in order with his bankruptcy, but at other times Philip has admitted that the judge had no idea about the minutiae of his career as a streamer. Panda Lee. Leanna, also known by the screen name Panda Lee, was Philip's first girlfriend as a streamer and maybe in general. She started as a fan of his, and they exchanged DMs starting when she was either 17 or 18. Which one exactly it is has been a hot topic of debate. Either way, she was definitely still in high school, and Philip was almost 10 years older than her, which is not a great look. She was involved in a lot of Phil's content, much more so than Kat would be later. And she was very divisive at the time. Her personality grated on a lot of viewers, both dense and detractors alike. Like Philip, she was quite racist.
Okay, so a word to the wise, do not fucking get an apartment, like, ever. Just don't. I don't care what neighborhood you live in. It can be as white as anything. Don't fucking get an apartment, because you know why? You know why it's a white neighborhood? Because the white people live in the houses around it. They do. I swear to God, I'm not joking. This isn't even being racist. I think I'm like, wait, never mind. There is one white couple on the first floor. White people in this particular apartment complex I live in are a vast minority.
In one of the first videos to feature her, Philip added the annotation, "Please note, Panda Lee is not Asian, that is all." And he claimed that this was at her insistence. She also did one of the weirdest flexes I've ever seen when complaining about some Latino-style workers outside of her home.
But I could hear this Latin CD perfectly that if I knew Spanish enough, I could probably translate it for you. And it's fucking ridiculous.
Anyway, even though she moved to the state of Washington to be with her man, a move possibly calculated to isolate her from her former friends and family, she ended up making new friends of her own at her job, and this gave her the strength to eventually break pignosis and leave the guy. After this, opinion of her rose greatly. You'll love to hear a success story of someone overcoming their subjugator. The most notable Panda Lee story occurred late in her relationship with Philip when she suffered a panic attack at work and was hospitalized. Philip was an enormous Karen about the whole thing and kind of made it all about himself. After that, he forbade her from going to the hospital again, informing any paramedics who may come to her rescue later that they should just, quote, give her a pill, unquote, rather than waste more of his time.
The thing is, I know if this ever happens again, I'm going to tell him, you are not allowed to bring her to the hospital. No, you get no permission to fucking do it. You can't give her a pill. You want to give her a pill, and that's it.
Philip claims that this little episode occurred after they had broken up, but before she had moved out or changed her emergency contact information, but this sounds like a lie that Philip told to save face. Embarrassed that it was probably the most immediate cause of the breakup. 'Cause let's think about this one, alright? Let's put on our thinking caps. If Philip is telling the truth, and the give her a pill saga happened after they had broken up, but before she had moved out, he knew that she was gonna leave the Snort Fort any day now. Why the fuck would he still be trying to dictate her medical care in the future, knowing that that future would no longer include him? Don't really make any sense. Also, on other occasions, Philip has claimed that Leanna left the Snort Fort in haste, packing only a few essentials and leaving the rest of her possessions behind. This would seem to indicate that there was not enough time between the end of their relationship and the end of their cohabitation for the Give Her a Pill saga to happen, as otherwise she would have had more time to plan a more thorough move. The conclusion is obvious. Phil and Leanna were still a couple during the Give Her a Pill saga, but she would leave him soon after, enraged by his selfish behavior. Kat. Kat is Philip's current wife. Upset that he no longer had anyone to cook or clean for him after Panda Lee walked out, Phil reached out to a desperate young lady who needed some help with OBS. She also needed help getting out of a bad situation with her then-current boyfriend, who is known in detractor circles as the Subaru Man, because he drives a Subaru. I think we know his actual name, but it's a boring name, so I'm just gonna keep calling him the Subaru Man because it's funny. Anyway, unlike Leanna, Kat did a little bit of streaming of her own prior to moving in with Philip, so you think she'd be even more involved in Philip's content, but just the opposite is true. Kat has only ever appeared on stream with Philip a handful of times, and each time she seems extremely uncomfortable to be there, and Philip seems equally uncomfortable letting her get a word in edgewise, talking over her whenever he can.
All right, so Tony asking, will we ever do co-op? Well, it's been a discussion, some things that we would consider doing. And one of the things, and we're just going to throw this out there, and we'll talk about this more as it approaches, one of the things that we think would be an excellent first idea would be with Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth coming out at the end of the month. That game's going to have a mode in it where you basically build a virtual island. You're able to have almost like an Animal Crossing situation, and we both played Animal Crossing and loved it. We both love Like a Dragon, and we're like, why don't we have like nights where Kat can come on stream with me and we build this island together? It could be the Burnell family island in Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, and all the decisions we'll make together, we'll have everything going like that. And the other cool thing is, like, Jasper is already in here with us. He's like, he's going to be in here, like he always wants to be with us, so he'll probably be in here for these streams, jumping on the chair, getting pet and everything. So it'll be nice, like, family night content, right? Now, will there be anything else in the future? Maybe, but we're not. Why get ahead of ourselves, right? You take it step by step. Tonight's our very first night doing it. Let's see how this goes. Let's see how the Q&A goes. Just hanging out with you guys, and then we'll go from there. But that's kind of our first idea of something that we would want to do, like gameplay-wise. So.
It's easy to compare Kat's situation to that of some kind of hostage or kidnapping victim. Philip never wants her to go anywhere. They never got a proper honeymoon after their wedding, even though Philip's parents offered to pay for it. Detractors will often make jokes about how Kat has gained a lot of weight during her period of captivity. They seem to think that this is the easiest way to make Philip mad, but it never works. It's clear that Philip does not care about his wife and will condone any insult to her person. So I try to kind of give Kat a break, considering her position as Philip's foremost victim. The best known meme related to Kat is how Philip has, on multiple occasions, mistakenly referred to her as his mom before correcting himself.
So we order. Now, what did we order? My wife wanted to get a original chicken sandwich. Yesterday I had curry. My wife made a Japanese curry, and it was quite good, Japanese style.
This has led to her detractor nickname of the mom wife. She's also sometimes referred to as the soul maid, because it's clear that Philip's primary interest in her is the sort of domestic labor she can provide for him. Jasper. Jasper, or as Philip refers to him, Jasper Kitty, is Philip's cat, like his pet cat. Jasper has been declawed. Philip claims that he didn't do it, and Jasper was already like that when they adopted him, but it's widely believed that this is a lie. Philip has always been known to be a sucker for upcharging for special features on whatever he's purchasing at the moment. He's an avid believer in Worthington's Law. Oddly enough, one Jasper-related expense that Philip refuses to pay for is to have Jasper's blood work done at the vet. Philip got very angry that a vet would suggest that this was even necessary. even though Jasper has displayed certain questionable symptoms of possible health problems. This playing fast and loose with his pet's health is especially cruel considering how often Philip has referred to Jasper as his son. I guess Philip's true son is and always will be Derek. Sandwich shop analogies. So let's imagine for a moment that you're a streamer. You provide intangible online entertainment for the general public in the hope that some of them, out of the goodness of their heart, will toss you some change into your tin cup. You're sort of the online equivalent of a busker. Now, imagine that in this business of streaming, you make some very questionable decisions, and you have to defend them and explain yourself to those who have questions about why you do the things that you do. So let's imagine, and I know this is a little out of left field, but let's imagine that you pretend that what you do is equivalent to a business that provides tangible goods, such as, for example, a sandwich shop. You talk down to your audience like they're stupid, though admittedly none of them are known to be intellectual giants, for not reaching the same conclusions as yourself. Thank you for taking this walk with me through my mind palace. Yeah, Philip does this a lot, and it's always a sandwich shop. He never draws analogies toward other types of shops, or indeed other types of working professionals whose services might be a little bit more equivalent to what Philip does. Philip has said that his father, David Burnell, once suggested to him that he should put his business degree to use by opening a sandwich shop. This is a terrible idea, as restaurants in general are some of the worst businesses to open, especially if you have no great love or knowledge of cooking. They have razor-thin profit margins and an extremely high chance of failing in their first year. So, maybe Dave is just another detractor like us. Interviews. So a lot of Philip's worldview is predicated on his ability to completely control the narrative. He'll ask questions and then not really look for the answers. He'll carry on conversations with himself, and he'll ban anyone who dissents from his ideas too conspicuously. All of this breaks down when he's speaking live with another person. So it should come as no surprise that the live interviews he's had with other content creators have been some of the most notable and unhinged moments in his streaming career. The most well-known of these interviews is the one he had with the Side Scrollers podcast on March 16th, 2023. He went into it expecting a pretty softball interview because he had had some friendly contact with Stuttering Craig, one of the side-scrollers, way back in the day when Screw Attack was still a thing. However, Craig has a little bit of a background in journalism, and he actually prepared for the interview, doing research and steering around questions that Philip likely had prepared canned answers for. It was a glorious shit show.
And they got me kicked out of the Twitch partner program because of it.
What did they do? What do you feel that they did to you to get you removed off Twitch specifically?
So there was an organized movement against me where what they were going to do was say that 2021 Phil, because that's the year this happened, is the same as 2009, 2010 Phil. They took out of context clips. They took those bad jokes from back then, which I've already publicly apologized for. And I don't do that kind of stuff regularly anymore, okay? I've grown from that.
Well, I just saw a bad clip from a year ago, so that's...
All right, boys, prepare the slave trade. We're selling it right off for profit.
pretty recent.
Correct.
Philip did not give any information that was asked for about his business expenses, but he offered lots of unsolicited information that Kat probably didn't appreciate him sharing, such as the restraining order filed against the Subaru man, something nobody would have found out if Philip hadn't volunteered that information. Keemstar dipped into the interview for a little bit, and Philip got to display his groveling, two-faced nature. He talks so much shit about Keemstar behind his back, but to his face, He kowtows without shame. So if you hear a detractor saying, you are someone who, damn, I'm impressed, that is a reference to what Philip said to Keemstar during this interview.
Keem, you are someone who, when you look at your history on the internet, it's very interesting. And I'm actually, I'm impressed with what you've done.
After the interview was done, Philip got angry that the side-scrollers did exactly what they said they would do and read out all the super chats the day after.
I saw super chats going the entire time.
Right. Well, there's a lot more to get to here.
A little while after that, after Philip had admitted that some of the things he told to the side-scrollers were lies, he had another shorter interview with Stuttering Craig where he made the very notable remark that it doesn't matter if he told them lies because he gave them answers. And an answer is still an answer, even if it's a big ol' fib.
I was the guest on your show the day before for 5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I was on your show and answered hard-hitting questions. You didn't have to believe the answers.
Hold on. Did you answer? Because you
I did. Oh, indeed I answered. You just didn't like the answers.
Phil, don't flip that on me because you didn't. You were dishonest with us. And we smelt that.
It's still an answer. It doesn't matter if it's honesty or not. It's still an answer.
The next most notable interview Philip has had is the one he had with Steve Cambion of the Truth Seekers podcast. Now, Steve's background is in exposing scams. That is what his content tends to be about. So I don't know what Philip thought he was walking into.
Do you ask for money during the reward streams? Oh, one more question. Do you cut out the begging when you cut out the begging, dude? You cut out the begging on your streams.
So I'm gonna
and re-upload them
to everyone who watched tonight.
Begging. If you're not doing anything wrong, you wouldn't need to cut out the begging, bro.
Does you know what he's talking about? So anyway, to everyone watching tonight,
you take the stream down and you cut out a lot of the begging.
I hope you enjoy. I really do hope you enjoy.
Come on,
Steve,
wow, what a grift.
I'm not biting any of your hooks. It's all a waste of time. It was a good try. It was a good try, but
I tell viewers if they don't donate, that cat has to cook.
All right.
This is one that the Kino Casino boys set him up with. And when Steve asked Philip questions about his financial dishonesty rather than just slobbering on his knob for the entire length of the interview, Philip assumed that Steve had somehow tricked the Kino boys into setting this up. So they got to play along with that delusion, facetiously scolding Steve for mistreating their boy Philip, while also saying, okay, cool, we'll see you next week. Philip still didn't pick up on that. The dictator hat. So Philip used to regularly put on stupid clothes as an incentive for financial donations. In addition to vests, he would wear goofy hats, one of which was, oh boy. So this is a hat that was meant to make him look like the character in Street Fighter, known in the United States as M. Bison, in foreign lands as Vega, and in the tournament scene where players from many lands meet, is often given the nickname Dictator to avoid any confusion. This hat fit a little too well with the way our boy runs his streams, and when one commenter pointed out that it was a very dictatorial hat, this prompted one of Philip's more notable and quotable hissy fits.
Trying to be toxic on my fucking stream. I'm having fun here. And all of a sudden I look at the stream chat, everyone, oh, Nazis, Hitler, Nazis. No, how about this? Banned. Gone. Forever. Because I don't put up with your fucking bullshit. Your toxic shit is not welcome on my fucking streams, ever. So get the fuck out. Now. It's not a funny fucking joke.
Phil felt that the fault was not with himself for intentionally invoking the aesthetic of some of history's most infamous dictators, characters that M. Bison is obviously an homage to. No, he felt that the fault lay with his viewers for noticing that. Jaha. Jaha is a competitive fighting game player, ex-Marine, bodybuilder, and very early DSP detractor. He is notable for having come this close to getting into an actual street fight with the guy. Not in a video game, I'm talking out in the parking lot. As I've already mentioned, when Philip went to fighting game tournaments, he was an absolute piece of shit, antagonizing everyone he could because his only model for human social interaction was pro wrestling, so he assumed that every community needs a heel, and that he was just the man for the job. When his ire turned on Jaha, there was some talk of whether these fellows should take this outside and settle it like gentlemen. Then Philip realized the enormity of what he had gotten himself into, and the enormity of Jaha's muscles. He spent some time hiding from Jaha in the bathroom, and he was eventually cornered in the parking lot by Jaha and his friend Mike Watson. Rather than simply apologize for the things he said and let it end there, Philip wept aloud. He cried to save himself and cowered, and explained that he didn't even remember the hurtful things he had said to Jaha because he was an alcoholic, and he must have said those things while in some sort of alcohol-induced fugue state. Jaha and Mike Watson did let it end there. Mike Watson would later explain that he realized at that moment that Philip was not all there mentally, and he considers it unsportsmanlike to beat up such an individual. Back problems. Philip would like you to know that he hurt his back, and he has ongoing horrible back problems. That is the only part of the story that remains consistent. Sometimes he hurt his back in a car accident, sometimes he hurt it when playing flag football, sometimes there was no particular inciting incident for the back injury, it just sort of developed out of nowhere one day. These things are all incidental to the central tenet of the back pain narrative, which is that due to his back problems, Philip can't do anything he doesn't want to do, and he gets to do everything that he does want to do. For example, his back problems make it impossible for him to drive on the highway because he can't sit in a car seat for that long a time in the same position. However, he can drive on ordinary city roads to make trips of the same distance over the course of a longer period of time. So he's in the same seat for more time, but his back pain never flares up then, because he's not using it to get out of something he doesn't want to do. For another notable example, he will sometimes claim that his alcohol abuse is a form of self-medication for his back problems, so you may not criticize him for his drinking. He practically acts like he has a prescription for gin. Philip will also never seek medical attention for his back problems. He will sometimes say that his back miraculously cured itself when he moved to the Seattle area because of the healing Seattle air. But then, of course, sometimes he will go back to blaming his back for things. So, those healing winds can turn and betray him if someone ever asks him to do something he'd rather not do. If you're curious for a little more information on this topic, Steve of the Dead has produced an informative little video about it. Nice, easy watch, something to knock out while you're on your way to work. Kino Boys. I've had to mention the Kino Boys a couple of times already. These are the two members of Kino Casino, the live stream that occupied quite a bit of Philip's 2024 in terms of insane drama. They were minor DSP detractors who chanced into the spotlight because They would frequently refer to Philip as king in an obviously sarcastic way when they were criticizing how entitled he was and how prissy a Karen he was when talking about fast food as though it were not good enough for him. Philip did not pick up on this sarcasm. He always wanted to be referred to as king in a way that was not insulting him, which was why he originally tried to redefine the term king of hate. So he really latched on to these two. He thought that they were his friends. No one else ever thought this. He would start appearing as a guest on the Kino Casino, and he arranged a collaboration with Ashton, also known as PPP. Ashton replaced John Rambo in a previously defunct wrestling podcast, Smark Guys. Also, please note that Philip, for a while, referred to Ashton as Triple P, as like a private pet name for him to show off how close they were. And this was so funny that detractors will still refer to him as Triple P, usually then explaining that they call him Triple P. Philip also felt very close to the other Kino boy, Andy Worski, at one point referring to Andy as his, quote, gaming soulmate. On another occasion, while spamming the Kino Casino chat, Philip suggested that we should have a look at Andy's shredded abs. The Kino boys would get to sneak diss Philip for a full 8 months, especially Triple P. I call him Triple P. Andy quickly lost patience with Philip and no longer found the entertainment value in leading him on. When Philip finally broke things off with them, he tried to take control of the narrative by claiming that he had been deceiving them for this full 8 months, and that all the DMs they were about to leak were psyops of some sort. That's definitely not true, but it would be even more insane if it was true. Because these DMs included things like Philip sharing details about his wife's health, about secret pets in the Snort Fort that have died, that caused Philip great grief, including a rabbit that the detractors have referred to as Beg's Bunny, and how Philip's parents are at death's door. Philip doesn't understand that it would be even worse if these were lies than if these were the truth. Philip refers to this as the King Snake saga, after a snake that eats other snakes.
The king snake is a creature. A snake.
Even Philip himself abandoned this pretense that he was deceiving the Kino boys rather than the other way around. Now he hopes that you will just forget about it, rather than realizing that the things he DM'd to these two are insane whether or not they are true. Direct capture. Whoa, whoa. This is the idiosyncratic term that Philip uses for the simple practice of using a capture card to digitally record gameplay footage from a console. Philip was the last YouTuber in the universe to adopt this practice. He did it in, I think, 2013. And right up until the moment he did it, he would explain why he could never do it, and it is completely incompatible with his raw, uncensored, real, intimate, meaningful, and robust style of content creation. This is a recurring pattern in Philip's life. He will explain why he could never ever do something right up until the moment he does it. 220. So like most true Karens, Philip loves calling the police over stupid dog shit that definitely did not warrant that. At one point, he was calling the local authorities over, I think, people charging back their tips, thinking that they would come to his rescue here, and track down those people who took their $5 back and bring them to justice. He claims that the police officer he spoke to gave him some kind of excuse about how Renton is such a crime-ridden cesspool that they simply have no time to investigate those types of crimes, and all they can manage right now is human trafficking cases. Philip said that this officer recommended that he bring this matter directly to the FBI. So one DSP detractor named Darksydephil, who is a former police officer himself, thought that something was fishy about this story, so he actually tracked down the woman that Philip spoke to on this occasion, one Officer Whitney, and she was an absolute delight. She shared some very interesting information about her brief time speaking to the guy. For one thing, she revealed that the Snort Fort is covered in cameras. After the call, the Renton police did a routine drive-by inspection of the Snort Fort, found all these cameras, which led them to suspect that perhaps it was being used for some sort of illegal growing operation. Growing goofy grass. But the funniest thing she revealed is that she would occasionally recommend that callers reach out to the FBI, but only if she believed that they were what they call a 220, which was Renton police code for a mentally disturbed individual.
I was very cautious when I would talk to people to not give onlys or we don't do that, And there were times and calls I referred people to the FBI. But that was if I was tired of talking to them and they were what we call a 220, kind of mental.
This number immediately became canonized as a piece of detractor slang. So if you see it, it means that Philip is once again acting a little mental. Level 3, obscure and one-off jokes. We're really in the thick of it now. If any of you just wanted the lowdown on the basics of DSP, I wouldn't blame you for turning back now. You can walk away now with a full heart and an understanding that you got it. If you're proceeding, it is because you are ready to plunge into the most abyssal depths of the Snortex. The non-unboxing. This is just one video that Philip made on February 11th, 2014. He decided that he would do an unboxing style video for Lightning Returns, one of the 2 sequels to Final Fantasy XIII. Normally a video of this type would have been long since lost in the haze of ages, forgotten by even the most obsessive of detractors. This one remains in our memory for 2 very hilarious reasons. The first reason is the most immediately obvious if you watch the video. There was a fire alarm going off in Philip's condo facility at the time, and rather than wait to do the video later or even just scrap the entire idea, Philip decided to soldier on, undaunted by the incredibly shrill and annoying noise going on in the background.
Okay, what is up everybody? Darksydephil here, and welcome to Release Day Unboxing for Tuesday, February 11th.
He attempted to muffle the noise by stuffing his door with paper towels. When that failed to work, he was just like, let's just do it. He spends nearly a full 15 minutes rambling about dog shit over the ear-piercing screech of the fire alarm. And then we come to the second reason this is one of the most accidentally funny videos he has ever made. Because even though the alleged purpose of this video was to open the game package and show you its contents, Philip forgets to actually do that. The package remains sealed at the end of the video.
And hopefully this will get fixed and we'll have gameplay today. I'll have to let you know on Twitter. Thanks everybody.
My favorite part of this video is imagining him behind the scenes afterward. The video was very lightly edited. He had to add a title sequence and some watermarks to the video, and then he had to upload it to YouTube. And at no point during this process did he realize, hey, wait a minute, I never actually opened the box. What if I try to take 2? Maybe the fire alarm won't be going off anymore, so that's a nice double victory. On the other hand, I could just upload it. I'm sure no one will care. Certainly not over a decade later. Cup noodles. Speaking of individual review videos where Philip fails at a very basic task, let's talk about this review he made for Cup Noodles on December 17th, 2016. Gotta make sure that people know how instant ramen tastes so they don't waste their 35 cents. This review takes a half hour to complete because our boy has to pig-splain literally every single step of the process, including the fact that to make the cup noodles, you must remove it from its cardboard packaging.
How do you make cup noodles? Well, the first thing you gotta do is you gotta take the cup out of its cardboard container.
He heats the water for his 35-cent noodles in his $350 Keurig coffee machine, while pointing out that this is a great option for students on a budget. He does not introduce the hot water to the noodles until around the 10.5-minute mark, and when he does, he spills the water all over his countertop because he tried to pour it out of a coffee cup.
It doesn't pour out properly.
When earlier in the video it is revealed that for some reason he owns 5 different glass measuring cups that are just sitting there, being like, "Put me in, coach, I'm ready." He spills even more while stirring the cup noodles, and then finally, in a great comedic climax, he attempts to eat the noodles with a spoon and gets angry that the noodles are not sticking to the spoon.
Maybe the proof is in the noodles. Let's give the noodles a taste and let's see what those taste like. And try to get a spoon. Oh wow. It's even hard to get a spoon of noodle. Look, it's incredibly difficult to get a spoon of noodle out of it because they all pull away from you.
If you had to select just one video as evidence that Philip should not be living on his own without some kind of live-in caregiver, this would be your best choice. Mr. Ludacris made a notable parody video about this cup noodles review.
Look at this! Look at this! Yes, the noodles, they look like little dicks. I'm not even kidding.
And none other than H Bomber Guy and his friend Sean also did a commentary watch-along video.
Do you really trust if you get another flavor of cup noodles?
I trusted you, cup noodles with shrimp.
No.
Eat it. January 2024 would see one of Darksydephil's most memorable individual meltdowns. This one's great. And it's not because anyone leaked his personal information or beat him at a game. It was really tragicomic in its pettiness. So Philip was playing the game Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, and he was making an impassioned speech about how the life of this game's main character, Ichiban Kasuga, was extremely similar to Philip's own life. Philip's persecution complex really latched onto this game and its protagonist. One of Philip's dents, a fellow known as King B. Cruel, very gently poked fun at this speech, comparing it to the image meme where the character says, "He's just like me, fur."
Oh, he just like me. He just like me, for real.
Sort of referencing how often in fiction we see what we want to see, rather than seeing ourselves as we are, we see ourselves as we wish we were. This barely amounts to an insult, if you could call it one at all, and yet...
By the way, how about this? I don't know what the fuck idiots are talking about with memes and shit. Oh, it's like, he's just like me. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I don't follow your dumb fucking memes. So take your meme and shove it up your fucking ass, because I have the ability to make an observation that's factually fucking based. Just because I'm Darksydephil doesn't mean I get to ignore fucking facts that the characters in this game are going through what I go through on a daily fucking basis. Shut the fuck up. I'm not taking your shit. I don't care who the fuck it is. There's people in the chat right now. Oh, he's doing a meme. Oh, this is cringe. Shut the fuck up and eat it. Eat it. Give me your mailing address. I want to mail you a spoon so you can eat shit out of my fucking ass. I'm tired of people saying that because I am who I am, I can't say a factual observation. It's a fucking fact that the characters in that game are going through what I have factually gone through on a daily fucking basis for years. So shut the fuck up. I am not putting up with any of this shit ever again. You're gonna tell me I can't make a factual observation? How about you kiss my fucking ass and lick my balls?
So we can add Philip's persecution fantasies to the list of things he defended more than his wife. Maybe this warrants a short detour, because how factually based are the statements Philip made about the resemblance of this game to his life? Let's go over that for those of you who have not played Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. So Ichiban Kasuga is an ex-Yakuza trying to turn his life around in a world that doesn't want to give him a second chance. He's still got the tattoos, and he's still associating with a lot of his ex-mobster friends, as he's trying to get them all jobs through this employment agency he's working with. When a particular VTuber starts asking why the fuck they have so many ex-Yakuza at this agency and whether they might be up to something, they all suddenly get fired, because the company doesn't want to catch that kind of heat. From there they go on to have wacky adventures in Hawaii, but the point is, there's a running theme in Ichiban Kasuga's life. Every time something shitty happens to him, it's because he was sticking his neck out for his friends. In fact, in the first game, the only reason he goes to jail is he's taking a fall for a murder that someone else in his crime family committed. That's his main defining character trait. He's not really actually bad. He just never takes the easy way around something when one of his slimeball friends is in trouble. This could not be more different from P.P. Burnell. Philip always chooses convenience for himself over friendship with others, every time. Back when he had friends at all, he mistreated them for profit, and now, in the modern day, he has 0 friends remaining. Everything Philip does is about Philip. He would be the bad guy in a Like a Dragon game. Italian sauce. This is one of my favorites. In August of 2014, Philip laid it on the line, displaying every step of an important Burnell family recipe: how to make his mama's Italian sauce. This series of videos is such a rich source of authentic Burnellian weirdness. I'm gonna try to list all the important things he does weird or wrong. Whenever he is personally holding the camera, he is swaying like a ship over troubled waters. Even if the food doesn't make you nauseous, the motion sickness just might. He refers to the vegetable components of the sauce as the meat of the sauce, even though the sauce also includes meat.
Before you start actually adding the vegetable components that are going to be the meat of your sauce, so to speak.
He chops the garlic and onions into pieces that are much too big, truly terrible to behold. When he's mixing the meatballs, he uses a single fork rather than touching it with his hands, even though he saw fit to wear rubber examination gloves for this task. He does not drain the pot after browning the meatballs, and browning might be the wrong verb there. He more blackens them. These meatballs are horrific, tragic, scorched victims with enormous white chunks of uncaramelized onion still sticking out of them. He hand strains the canned tomatoes using a ratchet grandma device rather than using a blender. And this might be part of the reason why he ends up putting so much water in the sauce. He keeps running more water through the device to try to catch stubborn, unstrained tomato pieces. And this might be the reason the end product is so watery. Even after 4 hours of simmering, this is a runny sauce. Last but certainly not least, as he's adding some of the final seasonings near the end of the simmering process, he dumps an ungodly amount of sugar into this sauce. Leanna, who was with him at the time and is operating the camera for much of this, asks him, what does the sugar do in the sauce? As though she were a LARPer in his own home. Philip replies,
Now what does the sugar do in the sauce?
Add sweetness.
Apparently, dumping a huge amount of sugar in the sauce was intended to cut its acidity. The Burnell family never learned the trick of sticking a raw carrot in there instead. The end product is the scene of a crime against mouths. Siege mode. Siege mode is the detractor term for when Philip crosses his arms. There's not a whole lot to this one, but whenever he's being especially defensive or pissy, he makes sure to engage siege mode. It limits his mobility, but it vastly increases the range and power of his hissy fits.
Ready to roll out!
Level 1. No, we're not going backwards. This refers to the level that Philip is on in life. It was coined by Keemstar. You see, Philip had recently made a video expressing great anger toward Keemstar, accusing him of being one of the people who monetized Philip's misery.
It's this simple. Stop watching Keemstar. Stop watching Keemstar. Stop watching Keemstar. Stop watching Keemstar.
Keemstar made a video response explaining that he understands where Philip is coming from because Keemstar had recently retired, a retirement that would not stick, but clearly he's sitting on a large pile of money. Meanwhile, Philip was still crying poor, begging his viewers for $10 and $20 at a time to meet his most immediate expenses coming up. Keemstar announced that he had, in the game of life, Keemstar had just entered New Game Plus, whereas Philip was still struggling on level 1. This would not be that notable, except that Philip decided the best response was to take the bite away from this insult by co-opting it. He renamed his pre-stream podcast to the Level 1 Podcast, and announced that he would wear that term with pride.
Today is Thursday, June 30th, 2022, and I wholeheartedly welcome everyone out there to the Level 1 Podcast. That is right, ladies and gentlemen.
Considering that the first level of a video game is the one that the most people see, and therefore it receives a lot of polish, though that doesn't really apply to a state of attempting to reach more financial security so you don't have to e-bag.
It's a dig at a particular piece of shit human out there who wants to try to make fun of us. Not just me, but us in general. Basically looking down on people, saying, oh, you never made it as a giant YouTuber. You're not filthy fucking rich. You're down there at level 1. Well, you know what? It's nice at level 1. Take a look around. Take a look at level 1 of any video game, okay? Usually level 1 is typically a nice place or the nicest place in a video game. You got nice greenery, you got nice scenery, you got a nice open world to explore, you're learning the game mechanics, you're having a chillin' fun time. All that difficult, crazy shit is coming up later in the game, and you know that, but when you start on level 1, it's your time to sink into a game and really start to enjoy it for what it is. So, I'm perfectly happy to be here on level 1 and have a great time with my viewing audience every single freaking day. And everyone else wants to look down and rub your nose at us and say, oh, you little shits down there, you never did anything. Well, guess what? Fuck you. I don't care. I'm happy where I am. I have a good life. I have a good audience. We have a great time here today on level 1. So everyone, welcome to that level 1 podcast, and I hope that you're having a good time and you're ready.
Grug. Grug is Philip's caveman name. The detractors gave it to him for the moments when he's being particularly brutish or obtuse, or just when he's leaning very far forward in his chair and showing off that incredible profile. Also note that when he's playing a game and he's angry that he's not getting money or the game's too hard for him and he is lowering his brow and scowling as he plays in angry silence. This is known as grug moding. A lot of people. Our boy loves to control the narrative, and one of the ways he does this is by engineering false consensus. When he wants to lend an air of legitimacy to an opinion of his, he will cite a non-specific lot of people who agree with him, or who told him to make this decision that he's made.
I think what we had is an honest conversation about all of his content recently that a lot of people have been very critical with him about. A lot of people have been saying things about Lol Cow Live, like it's fake, it's staged, it's not funny anymore. And people are telling me they want variety. So you're getting variety now. Some people have been nitpicky about certain parts of the doc. For example, some people about the PC, all right? Recently, I have lost weight. People have said to me, Phil, how have you lost weight?
If these lot of people ever exist, they never type in chat or leave comments on his videos. They contact him securely behind the scenes, thus masking all evidence of their existence. LTG. Dale Wilson, also known by the gamer tag Low Tier God, is the other major lol cow of the fighting game community. Unlike Philip, he does occasionally go to tournaments when he's allowed to. Like Philip, he is an extremely salty little bitch who rage quits a lot.
What the fuck, man? All that off of a fucking crush counter. That's why I can't stand this game.
This might have given Philip the idea that he could take this guy in a game arranged for clout, so he challenged him to some sort of online fighting game competition. Dale responded that if Philip wanted his time, he would need to pay him $5,000 up front.
My services cost.
Huh?
He then went on, as he is wont to do, berating Philip's physical appearance, which, granted, is an extremely easy thing to berate.
Like a man that doesn't hit the gym daily or weekly, you can't speak to me. On top of that, if you're not properly groomed, you can't speak to me. On top of that, if your voice box and vocal cords never deepen, you can't speak to me. If you're still rocking a goatee in 2023, you can't speak to me. If you're 5 foot something, you can't speak to me.
What? Whoa. That's a lot to unpack right there. That was a ton.
He recommended that Philip should focus on his sexy.
Focus on your sexy, bro. Focus on your health.
Focus on my sexy?
This really drove Philip up the wall in ways that he didn't even verbalize. After this chewing out from Dale, Philip changed the way he dressed. He retired many of his gaming t-shirts and started wearing button-up shirts and grandma sweaters instead. Few people have had such a large effect on the guy's life with so little effort. Also, this does not directly relate to Philip, but Mrs. the Wolverine doll wanted to make sure I told all of you that Dale pisses in bottles, and he is a deadbeat dad with a daughter he never sees. Real life isn't 3D. This is a very deep cut, but not if you ask Philip, because as it turns out, Philip does not believe in the concept of depth. I am being dead serious. Way back in the day during an Ask the King segment, someone asked Philip's opinion of 3D movies, and we got to hear one of the most unhinged things Philip has ever said.
You ever notice something that real life really isn't that much 3D? Like if someone throws a softball at you, do you really see this thing coming at you? Like no, you see a 2D thing, you get hit in the fucking face.
Good lord. Also, specifically mentioning being hit by a softball has made me suspect that this exact thing happened to our boy when he was a wee one. And just like he blamed the company for overfilling the water bottle he spilled, he is now blaming our perception of space-time for that softball hitting him in the head. Push-ups. So in July 2021, a LARPer promised Philip a cash reward if he could do 25 push-ups on stream.
Big Bane did a super chat and said, I'll give you $200 to do 25 push-ups non-stop. Okay, ready? Here we go.
Philip immediately went off camera and started counting to 25, acting as though he were actually doing the push-ups. He counted at a shockingly fast pace, averaging about 1 push-up a second, a pace that even extremely fit and athletic people would struggle to keep up with.
Whew. I did 25 real push-ups on my floor. I actually did do them, but there's no way you could see it because I can't aim the camera to look over there. But I actually just did do 25 push-ups. Whew. I did them real fast.
Philip then demanded the money and threw a hissy fit when he did not receive it. Philip would claim that he was unable to move his camera to prove it, something that would later be shown to be a lie. A few years later, in January 2025, Philip's lie would be challenged once again by Triple P. I call him Triple P. Philip was showing off his new camera that could automatically track his movements around the pig pen, and so naturally the issue of push-ups came back up. Philip then proceeded to do push-ups again, much more slowly and wrong. He would later claim that pretending to do push-ups the first time was always a joke that you were never supposed to believe, even though at the time he banned several people for not believing him. Atomic Heart, special guest commentator, DJ Fuck Fridge.
What's up, losers? Are you asleep yet? What's it been like an hour and a half? You still here, huh? Well, alright. Get the cheese out of your ears, cause we're about to talk about something interesting for a change. In February 2023, Philip met me for the first time while playing the video game Atomic Heart. I was there to very helpfully dispense power-ups while also gently introducing him to the joys of physical intimacy. In hindsight, maybe I did come on a little bit too strong. I didn't realize at the time just what a shut-in this guy was and how much lost time I had to make up for. Philip displayed a fight-or-flight response. He muted his audio and he threatened to uninstall the game. And yet, I'm told when he plays other games, especially games in the Yakuza series, displays of male sexuality and male nudity don't faze him in the least. I'm not going to draw the obvious conclusion because I think I still have a chance with this guy. Atomic Heart 2 just got announced. Wish me luck.
Sir. You might notice that when detractors talk to each other, sometimes they refer to each other as Sir this and Sir that, like they were knights of olden times. What's up with that? Well, it's actually a reference to what a two-faced worm Philip is. So at one point, Philip decided that he needed more clout, and he decided he would get it by trying to talk Justin Wong, much more successful fighting game player, into playing him online. Philip's only way of getting Justin's attention was to go into the chat of Justin's stream and try talking to him like he was right there in the room. He referred to Justin as Sir. Now the reason this is so fucking slimy is because when Philip doesn't want something from Justin, he will relentlessly talk shit about him behind his back. In June of 2025, Philip would get match made against Justin Wong just by chance while playing Capcom vs. SNK 2 online, and once again, it was like a switch had been flipped. He immediately started glazing the man that he usually despises, because he thought he could convert this stroke of luck into some clout and money. It's actually hard to watch.
So this could be him. And he picked R4 Sagat, so let's see. Is it Wong? Oh, cool. Well, he's gonna kick my ass, especially if I'm using this team. This will be fun.
Our connection is great. It's the first blue connection I've ever had. Nice. Damn. Fierce, fierce, fierce. Fierce, fierce, fierce. Unstoppable shit.
This battle is about to explode.
Truly vile. Marrying a bear. From December 2023 through March 2024, Philip played Baldur's Gate 3. He fucking hated it the whole time for two primary reasons. It sometimes required him to think, and it had romance options. It's hard to say which of these Philip hates more. He stuck with it the whole time, though, because it kept making him a lot of money. Of course, he did his best to avoid all the romance options, even going so far as to berate viewers who wanted to see some of the romantic content of the game, explaining that he gets laid by his wife, and therefore doesn't ever need to see romance in media.
Someone just said I'm a nerd, or excuse me, I'm a prude. No, I'm not a prude. I'm just not a horny nerd. You understand? Like I actually get laid by my wife. I don't need to have horny nerd fake romance in this game. You get it?
Really interesting use of the passive voice there. I don't think anyone else would describe a sexual relationship quite that way. So at the end of the game was trying to figure out what the hell Philip was going for with his decisions, and it concluded that his closest relationship was with Halsin, the male druid that is probably best known for being able to turn into a bear and having scenes available to you where you can be intimate with him while he is a bear. Philip may have been friendlier with Halsin initially because Halsin is not a full party member in the first part of the game, so Philip might have thought that he was safe. Anyway, in the game's denouement, his character and Halsin get married, much to Philip's chagrin. Penne. Once during a Q&A segment, someone, probably a LARPer, asked what Philip's favorite pasta shape was. Phil explained that he prefers a penne because it is easy to eat.
Typically when I make pasta, I prefer a small pasta like a rotini or a rigatoni or a penne because it's easy to make, easy to eat.
This immediately became a joke. Philip thought he was in on the joke. When he still streamed on Twitch, he made Penne Points the official name of the channel currency. I'm pretty sure he misunderstood the joke. I think he just thought that it was like a penis joke, when the actual joke is that Philip considers certain pasta shapes to be too difficult to eat. Some other foods that Philip has called too hard to eat include fondue, hot pot, any meat with bones, and burrito bowls from Chipotle that are not pre-mixed for him. Curls and Twirls. Curls and Twirls is the hair salon where Philip goes to get his hair cut, and if they're not detractors, they could have fooled me. They absolutely fuck up our boy's shit every time he visits them. DSP Space Gaming. So now and then you'll hear detractor content creators, especially Atlas the Bookkeeper, refer to Philip's channel as DSP Space Gaming. So what's that all about? You'll notice that his real channel is DSP Gaming without a space there, and at one point in 2022, Philip threw a somewhat notable hissy fit because he believed that someone was trying to steal his identity, views, and money by making a YouTube channel called DSP Space Gaming. This is the closest Philip would ever come to emulating the Liquid Chris saga in the life of Chris Chan, but that is an iceberg for another day. DoorDash quest. So our boy orders a lot of DoorDash, sometimes multiple times a day, sometimes delivered from places within easy walking distance of the Snort Fort. He's quite dependent on it for his daily nutriment.
It's funny because we already got people being stupid in the chat. Like, for example, two idiots, I mean it, idiots, said, well, if the McDonald's right around the corner, why don't you just drive there and pick it up to save money? I literally just said at night, late at night, at fucking night. You know, it's like 11 p.m. or something, you want to snack. No, I'm not going to throw clothes on, put on my fucking shoes and sneakers and drive out to McDonald's. That's the convenience of ordering. But again, people have to nitpick everything I say to try to say, why'd you do it wrong? Well, fuck you. I didn't do it wrong. It's something a normal person would fucking do. And once a year you crave something, you order out. It's 11 at night, you stupid idiot.
In January 2023, the unthinkable happened. The delivery driver delivered Philip's meal to the wrong house. He received a photo of the meal on the porch on his app, but he lives in a gated community full of identical boomer houses, so he had no idea which porch that was.
We had actually ordered a really expensive meal that one day. He delivered it to the other houses out here, like 2 blocks away. He left it on their porch and left a picture of the food on their porch without ever confirming he left it at the right place.
He had to venture out into the community, flashlight in hand, forlornly searching for his slop. Some say he wanders still. Nah, he made it back. But do you ever catch a moment in your life where you realize that if there is a hell, it's gotta be something like this? I have found myself trapped in a time crystal, doing something that I can all but see the end credits scrolling over infinitely. If Philip ever makes it into the depths of Tartarus, I'm sure they'll have him going from door to door, flashlight in hand, searching forever for a fast food meal that will never come. Grocery bags. Thanksgiving 2023 was a rough one for our boy. You see, he was the victim of a robbery. Or at least that's how he describes it. The truth turned out to be quite different. You see, he was at his local Fred Meyer grocery store shopping for essentials for his upcoming Thanksgiving meal.
Got my shopping cart. I got my reusable bags in front of me in the shopping cart. There's actually a drink caddy in the cart, and my phone fits perfectly in there. So what I do is I have a list app in my phone, and I use that to track what I need for shopping, and I usually just pop my phone right into the drink caddy, and I check off on my list as I'm grabbing stuff and putting it in the cart, check it off, and that's how I shop. Pretty convenient, okay? So, my normal day, I start usually in the produce, get the produce out of the way, and then I move into the store, you go from the dry goods into the other stuff, and the cleaning supplies, meats, and then you finally get to like the dairy and the bread and everything. So,
he abandoned his cart full of unpaid groceries to double back and retrieve a can of cranberry sauce which he had forgotten.
Oh, it was the cranberry. That's right. It was the cranberry sauce for Thanksgiving. And, that's something I don't normally buy, right? So it's on my list, and I didn't know where it was in the store. So typically what happens is, if you can't find it in the aisle and it's something for a holiday, it means they idiotically put it on an end cap. Like, they probably have, like, a highlighted area of the store where it's, like, on the front of one of the aisles. Oh, man, I gotta get this cranberry sauce, because I'm gonna grab it now. I'm gonna forget about it, right? Let me just go grab it. It's gotta be on an end cap, right? So, I'm not stupid, all right? I grab my phone to make sure I don't leave it in the cart, because, man, I'd be a fucking moron if I left my expensive phone in the cart. Now, you might say, well, why did you not take the cart with them? Because, like I said, the carts in these fucking grocery stores are junk. They barely work. My cart's full. So why am I going to push my cart across the entire store?
He claims that he was timing himself and was gone for exactly 2 minutes, though why he would be timing himself is beyond me.
I timed it, actually. It was 2 minutes. 2 minutes. I found the cranberry sauce on an end cap. There it is. I was not gone for longer than 120 seconds. I come back, and there's no cart.
When he returned, his cart was nowhere to be seen. Rather than make this a teachable moment and just go back and start shopping again, our boy was a huge Karen about it, pestering the already busy supermarket staff and making sure that they had to make it their problem.
In the state of Washington, right now, you can get away with theft.
One staff member claimed that they were certain that the cart had not been taken away by staff for later reshelving, but rather that local youths had absconded with it for some kind of endorphin rush.
I say, so what do you think happened? And the checkout guy was like, well, I think I got a theory. He's like, so I guarantee you what probably happened was, this is someone who was already in the store with the intention to steal. If they're already getting some kind of like an endorphin high because they're a kleptomaniac, they're just out to steal anything. But this is the rush that they get, this endorphin rush from being a kleptomaniac.
To me, this really sounds like they were telling Philip whatever Philip needed to hear, just to end the conversation as quickly as possible. That's certainly what I would do if I were this employee. And keep in mind, since he had not paid for the groceries, the only items of his that were truly lost were his reusable grocery bags. That's what he threw such a fuss over. A few humble, extremely inexpensive, and eminently replaceable bags.
And by the way, again, I gotta reiterate, these are not brand new reusable shopping bags. These are not valuable. It's nonsense. It's nothing of any real value, right? What really did they steal from me? The reusable bags. Is it a big deal? No, of course it's not.
DSP at GDC. Of course, Philip didn't actually go to the 2019 Game Developers Conference, but his presence was felt nonetheless. The makers of the game God of War 2018, commonly known as Dad of Boy, gave a presentation about how to convey information to even the stupidest of your player base. For demonstration purposes, they showed some real footage of a streamer going through their game and picking up on the extremely obvious cues that had been left for him. I'll give you 3 guesses who it was.
Taste of Vanir magic led him to new forms of experimentation.
We're back.
New levels of depravity.
Look where we are, we're back.
Boom, and there it is. He saw a shock crystal, right? He has been taught correctly. He has been promised interesting gameplay.
Is this even the same area? I don't even know. I'm not sure what that does.
When Philip found out that it had happened, his main concern was that they had taken footage from his stream without permission and without compensating him. He felt a little shortchanged by these people.
Apparently people are saying at the Game Developers Conference they used my footage of playing God of War and they blocked my face out. That's illegal. Just so they know, that's illegal. But that's monetized content. The advertisement rights are for YouTube to advertise, and they're not supposed to be able to just steal it. So that's kind of messed up that they did that.
He was not concerned at all that they were making him look like an idiot, or perhaps it would be more accurate to phrase it as an idiot.
So they used my gameplay as an example of how they used in-game tools to teach me how to play the game. That's cool.
This presentation at the conference is used as evidence, not completely without justification, that Philip is a tangible part of the reason that games are stupider than they used to be, a practice often called yellow painting. Sway. Before he started e-begging, Darksydephil had a couple of real jobs, most notable of which was, of course, at his father's helicopter company. But he had some others, one of which was working at a Wells Fargo. While he was there, he picked up a nickname from his co-workers. They called him Sway, due to his habit of swaying back and forth, never standing still.
I used to have this office job. I used to work at Wells Fargo Financial in the mid-2000s. And a couple of my co-workers started calling me Sway. I said, why are you calling me that? Because when you stand, you can't stand still. You're always like kind of moving back and forth a little bit. You never just like stand still and relax. Like, you're right.
This is a great nickname. Big ups to the Wells Fargo workers, wherever you may be now. Sometimes Phil is very matter-of-fact about his oscillations, but sometimes he gets a little sensitive about it and explains that it is a symptom of his back problems. This does not seem to be true. For one, he sways so hard. The amplitude of his swaying is so high that surely it puts more strain on his back than just sitting still or slightly adjusting himself in his seat. Swaying seems to be a psychological act for him, an act of self-soothing.
I couldn't even back then. And that was before I was diagnosed with my back injury. I was the same way. I was like, had to constantly be like moving, adjusting. I couldn't just like stand still.
For instance, he enjoys swaying a lot immediately after he has told a big lie, but before he has found out whether he's gotten away with it. Punched a bee. The Q&A section of the Level 1 podcast, where great minds go to ruminate on life's biggest questions. Darksydephil would love nothing more than to be considered a sagely authority figure, one that others come to for advice, that they may draw from his vast pool of experience. The one snag in that plan is that he's kind of a shut-in, and he doesn't have any experience outside of video games and food. If you ask him about either of these things, you'll get the most boneheaded opinions you've ever heard. If you ask him about his personal life, you'll get banned. And if you ask him about anything else, he will be speaking completely out of his ass. So, this raises the question, what the fuck do people ask him on his Q&A segment? Well, it turns out that it's mostly LARPers trying to break the world record for most inane question Philip has actually answered. I realize now that I never actually explained what a LARPer is. Short for live action role player, a LARPer is someone who plays the long game, detracting Philip while pretending to be a supporter, in the hope of slowly social engineering him towards greater depths of insanity. It's mostly a waste of time, and if they give Philip money, they shouldn't. That is the stupidest thing in the world. Do not give Philip money, it will go straight to Scopely. Okay, so LARPer questions, where do they come from? Well, some of them come from ALT Insider of WPIG 1651, who has made a little game out of trying to get the guy to answer every question on a couple of very amusing lists. These lists come from two beautiful videos, Jonathan Frakes Asks You Things, and Pat Sajak Has a Lot of Specific Questions for You. I love that shit. You should watch both of those videos immediately. Oh yeah, the name of this item is Punched a Bee, so I should explain what the fuck that is. In 2023, a LARPer asked Philip if he'd ever punched a bee, and Philip said yes, and I think this is still the world record for most inane question he has answered.
So, have I ever punched a bee? I can literally tell you I have. I have straight up bee bothering me, and I went boom, and I punched it straight on, and the bee went flying. That's happened.
DSP versus Lil Wayne. The guy likes to swing above his weight class when choosing rivals, in the belief that this will give him clout, and he has seldom swung higher than when attempting a personal rivalry with rapper Lil Wayne. When Lil Wayne was chosen to help promote the game Street Fighter VI, Philip took this personally and ranted against the choice, clearly suggesting that Philip himself should have been chosen instead.
It baffles me. These game companies are fucking asinine idiots. Why the fuck would you pay Lil Wayne, a rapper, to present the Street Fighter VI hour-long presentation? Are you fucking stupid?
He seemed certain that Lil Wayne had zero experience or knowledge of video games, because Philip lacks object permanence and cannot fathom the idea of a person doing things off camera.
This man's been killing Street Fighter for years. Now all of a sudden he likes it again.
Literally anyone else would present this and it would be better.
We'll get more into the object permanence thing a little later. Anyway, for his part, Lil Wayne never responded to Philip's antagonism in any way. Most likely he was never aware of it, but perhaps he had learned his lesson from his association with Drake, and did not want to be anywhere near someone with similar accusations against him. This is another piece of detractor vocabulary that you might hear in the wild without knowing what the fuck it is. Detractors will sometimes use the word re in place of the word me when imitating Philip. This is a reference to a video he made on April 14th, 2017, while in the middle of an angry rant against Machinima, the multi-channel network that had recently dropped him. He deposited this nugget of gold.
Yeah, I'm an adult. Sorry, I'm the one who operated a successful YouTube channel. Me.
I don't even know what he was going for there, but bless him for doing it. Level 4. Deepest lore and theories. We're really scraping the bottom of the barrel now. A few of these are going to be extremely obscure facts about Philip, but quite a few of them are pure speculation. Just things that people have thought about the guy, things that I have thought about the guy, things that Mrs. the Wolverine doll has thought about the guy. Gonna give you another chance to walk away now, cause it only gets dumber from here. Human suit. This is the theory that Philip is some manner of space alien or other inhuman creature that has stuffed himself into a human suit so as to better fit in with society. I don't think most people really believe this one. They more use it as a metaphor for how weird he is. But oh boy, if it's not the best explanation for certain things. Like, his weird pronunciation and word choice can be explained away as the product of someone who doesn't get out much and talks to almost nobody, so there's not a lot of a chance to close the feedback loop as far as how he speaks. But on the other hand, he has sometimes forgotten how to blink and has informed the chat that they should tell him to blink if he forgets to blink.
Right? Like, I don't know if when I'm playing fighting games, if I'm blinking or not. You guys would know because you can see me as I play. And so this person is observing and saying, yeah, if you haven't noticed when you play fighting games, like you barely ever blink. To take a breather, to blink like this. To be natural, to be human. Recuperate, blink, right? Hydrate in the eyes, hydrate in the mouth, hydrate everything.
Blinking is an automatic response. You do it without even thinking about it. It is deeply weird that Philip needs to be reminded to blink. Also, his ears twitch in a very odd way that suggests that some sort of catch at the back of his human suit is acting up. Desperate times, call for desperate measures. I hope my thickness is sufficient for bringing her pleasure. Big ups to Snood for digging up this ancient relic, and to WPIG and Lemtex for sharing it with the world and making it as popular as it deserves to be. To be clear, this is not a theory. This is all fact. This happened. The Desperate Measures saga refers to a conversation that Philip had on the Alphaism Radio podcast, which is a fighting game community podcast. This happened on March 30th, 2007. So, way before Phil started streaming full-time, before he spanked it, when he was just really a local community pest. Note that the instant Philip calls in and introduces himself as DSP, the hosts are already exasperated with him.
Hey, what's up, man? It's DXP.
Oh, Lord.
Here we go.
What's going on, man?
What do you mean, oh Lord?
He has clearly pestered these good people before, but tonight he's calling in for a very special reason. 'Cause of a certain lady named Angela. Angela was a fighting game community member, SRK forum user, and friend of the podcast, who, as some sort of social experiment or publicity stunt, had agreed to make love live on the podcast. Audio only, of course. Philip was so excited for this event that he called in about an hour before they said she would be on and started pestering them about her whereabouts.
So what the hell's going on with Angela tonight, man? You couldn't get her on the radio?
Well, we're going to try to call her in an hour, but...
He also started white knighting her against those who have criticized her on SRK and MySpace. And he wanted her to know what a suitable mate he would be, because of the size of his gentlemanly equipment. In particular, our boy was proud of his girth, and he announced that after measuring it, not with a tape measure, but with a Best Buy receipt, he could confirm that it was 6 inches in circumference.
Is that a prerequisite, Angela? 6 inches circumference?
No, it's not a prerequisite.
I want to say that can't be right, but considering that he did not speak to his length at all, he might have some sort of monstrous chode. Also, he later realized that you are supposed to measure such things while you are erect, meaning that these measurements were taken from his flaccid hog. This is one of those cases where you want to say he's lying, but if he's telling the truth, that is even more monstrous. Ever the prodigy at multitasking, Philip also found time during this already action-packed call to display his racism toward both black and Asian-style individuals. He drops an N-bomb. Like, hard R, he goes for it.
Yo, what was the girth of the game?
When the hosts mention the sad news that fellow fighting game community member Mickey D has been diagnosed with terminal cancer, Philip handles it with as much grace and tact as you would expect of a true pig roach. He mocks Mickey D, accuses the hosts of lying, and then when Mickey D himself joins the podcast, Philip lies and plays the victim. All in all, this is an incredible time capsule of just about everything that was wrong with P.P. Burnell circa 2007. It is hard to believe, but undeniably true, that he would get worse from here. Jenna. Jenna is Philip's sister-in-law. She's actually not that obscure. I put her so low on this list because I don't even really want to acknowledge her. She is someone who wants to be a lol cow, which really takes all the fun away from it. Always the free spirit of the family, Jenna has dabbled in adult film acting, most famously in a low-budget party porn wherein she plays one Officer Sanders, who is interrogating a suspect accused of shoplifting $11.95 worth of merchandise. In a rare case of effective community outreach on the part of a police officer, Officer Sanders feels bad for the perp and decides to give him a handy right there in the interrogation room. The actor was experiencing some difficulty performing, and so the ensuing release had to be simulated with a substance that looked like and possibly was Elmer's school glue. Jenna would go on to make a few diaper fetish videos. Intrigued by the existence of the Snortex, Jenna has made occasional attempts to reach out. For example, expressing approval for detractor songs that mention her, and at one point even engaging in a brief tryst with a detractor who would go on to boast about this conquest on kiwi farms. To be clear, don't do this. Don't tap the glass, just watch the animals. Letter T, letter T, letter T, letter T. Testing my pop filter's quality. Not always, but now and then, Phil will suddenly hit the letter T like it just burned the roast.
Just in the last month that I've been doing it, I actually feel tremendously better.
If you are reading any detractor media that capitalizes a T in the middle of a word, that is what it is referring to. The joking theory for why he does this is that he is memorializing T. Carter. I have a slightly less jokey theory for why he might do this. So when you hear someone going after a consonant like they promised a sick kid that they would hit it out of the park, it can be for one of two reasons. It's because they were a theater kid, which Philip was not, or it's because they've been to speech therapy, which Philip may well have been. Our boy is a well-known mushmouth, and he drops consonants at least as often as he hits them too hard. For example, in the word want, he doesn't just leave out the letter T, but also the letter N. For example, what do you want?
I throw out some shit I don't want, I sell what I don't want, I keep what I want.
Maybe some speech therapy he received in grade school failed to address an underlying problem, but produced a very amusing side effect that now and then those T's just go straight to the moon, Alice. Odor. What does the guy smell like? It's a question all sane people have asked themselves at some point. Those who have met him in person have stood mute, perhaps not wanting to spoil the mystery for the rest of us. However, we do have some information to go on. For example, Philip owns an extensive collection of colognes. He wears cologne every day and reapplies it to himself multiple times each day, even when he's not planning on going out, which is almost every day. He does this to ameliorate what he describes as a musty odor in the pig pen. He has fans and air freshening machines operating there, but it does not do the trick. He has also gone on record as only showering once or twice a week, and you can often see which days he did this from the state of his hair. One particular house tour video from October 9th, 2014 is particularly eye-opening. In it, he reveals that the Snort Fort is absolutely stuffed with scented candles. He has 10 of them on his mantle alone, and crates full of them besides. Many of these candles he considers to be seasonal.
Black cherry, cranberry chutney, apple pumpkin for the fall, salted caramel for the fall, home sweet home for the fall, and over the river.
And our boy knows from experience that you can't just light a wick and have done. No, you must place the candle carefully below the nose line so as to achieve maximum scent permeation.
At night, what we'll do, for example, we'll take the black cherry, we'll put it right over here in front of us so we can see it, and that's so that it has maximum scent permeation. And the reason I say that is if you burn it above your nose line, well, heat goes up, so obviously the scent is going to go up, and it's going to be hard for you to smell it. If you put it below the nose line, as you can see, that's actually about the height of our couch, then we can smell it nicely.
The single line in this video that is the most eye-opening to me is this one right here.
When I started spending time with Leanna and having her over all the time, we wanted the place to smell nicer.
Careful use of "we" there. This tells us that Leanna complained about the scent of the Connecticut condo, and here, shortly after the move to Renton, the Snort Fort has already had time to ripen, such that they must purchase more scented candles to cover up Phil's natural putrescence. So if you could watch Philip's videos in smell-o-vision, what would you perceive? Perfumed foulness. The perfumes changing with the season of the year, the underlying foulness remaining a constant. Divorce coin / health coin. There are many times when Philip would like to receive some pity for something happening to him in his personal life, but he doesn't want to share exactly what that is. Trying to have it both ways there, Philip will make it clear that something catastrophic is happening to him and you should feel bad, but you should not know why.
You know, personal stuff happening behind the scenes, not so good.
This is the most blatant invitation you could ever ask for theories and speculations, and these often fall into one of two camps, based on one of two things that the Snortex feels are inevitable. That his health will fail, or that his marriage will fail. Kat appears so seldom that if she were to walk out on our boy, there would be no way of knowing for quite a while at least. The Snortex sometimes fancifully imagine these two types of theory as two types of cryptocurrency that raise and lower in value as the vagaries of Philip's life march on. Or sometimes they are described as opposing teams in the fashion of fandom shipping wars, team divorce, and team health. As for myself, I think I usually fall into Team Roommate, which is a sub-faction of Team Health, who believe that Philip and Catherine's marriage is much more stable than it looks because they do not really seek anything from each other but the services one would expect from a roommate. It's a very stable, low-energy state.
Corner demons coming alive, crawling up the walls, better open your eyes. Empty your wallets, open your ears. I got 2 big bills and a bucket of tears.
Sometimes Philip will gaze at one of the 4 corners of his field of view, eyes bulging with abject terror. What does he see? Should I be afraid? Should we all be afraid? This is what is known in the parlance of the Snortex as checking the corner demons. There have not been very many attempts to assemble a coherent corner demonology, a lesser key of Snortman, if you will. However, the corner demon he checks most often is, from our point of view, on the bottom right, and that just makes sense because that's where his chat lives. That is where most of his anxieties congeal. Top right gets a check whenever he's imitating someone. That's an interesting pattern. Bottom left is where he looks when Jasper is doing something he shouldn't, so that can be a sign that he's losing a sense of control over the Snort Fort. Top left is rarest of all. That might be an eldritch, nameless terror. Oh, who am I kidding? They have names. They all have names. The truth has been staring us in the face the whole time. 4 corners, 4 demonic emissaries, 4 ruinous powers. That's right. Our boy is in the throes of the Chaos Gods. Korn, god of hatred and aggression. Slanesh, god of depravity and excess. Nurgle, god of pestilence and filth. And Tzeentch, god of stupid, elaborate psyops and birds. Sometimes detractors try to put him in one cult or another, but they all want him real bad. Our boy is the champion of chaos undivided. Akadon the ever-snorting. Diagnosing the guy. Maybe the most noble and edifying reason for following any lolcow is so that you can ask yourself, how did this happen? In what ways am I like this person? In what ways do I run the risk of becoming like this person? And in both cases, what do I do about that? So, naturally, a lot of armchair psychologists have asked what Philip might be diagnosed with if he ever got the professional help he so desperately needs. He's an alcoholic, that's a gimme, and he's addicted to mobile games, that is also quite evident. Beyond that, well, things may get a little fuzzy. A lot of detractors are quite convinced that Philip is somewhere on the autism spectrum. They will cite his love of rigid scheduling, his social ineptitude, and even his unusual flexibility and habit of walking on his toes. Myself, though, I must defer to the judgment of Steve of the Dead, the only detractor content creator I'm aware of who is an actual psychologist. He's a forensic psychologist, not a clinical psychologist, but maybe that's to his advantage here, since he is attempting to assemble a personality profile for someone who won't come into a therapist's office. Steve is quite certain that all of Philip's unusual behaviors can be sufficiently explained by narcissistic personality disorder. Who am I to argue? The fate of the Zelda jammies. Even after LTG told him to focus on his sexy and he started wearing button-up shirts, he still did not properly dress himself from the waist down. To this day, our boy prefers a nice breezy pajama bottom in lieu of pantaloons. The most infamous of these, and the one you're most likely to see in cartoons and caricatures, is a pair of blue pajama bottoms bearing the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild logo.
Because I'm a fan of goddamn Zelda, and I wear Zelda pants. See? So you all made fun of me. You made fun of me, a 41-year-old gamer on TikTok, and you said I'm a horrible gamer because I don't understand the lightning mechanic of Zelda. But I'm a fan. I have Zelda pants. Do you have Zelda pants?
But these have not been seen for a while, and there's a theory as to why. During one Street Fighter 6 stream in 2024, Philip ripped one. It was a heavy one. It caused his whole body to shake. His jowls just flapped vigorously. And after that, the Zelda jammies were nowhere to be seen. If they turn up again, obviously that debunks this theory, but the theory is that that particular breaking of wind was served with gravy. So much, in fact, that rather than clean them, Philip, or more likely Kat, just threw them out as a lost cause. The Brunel family washing machine is unreliable even in the best of times, and it may have just proved insufficient for a task this titanic. Dickers. Dickers, also known as Review Tech USA, is another lolcow who has had significant contact with Philip. Similar to Jenna, he's not really that obscure. I put him this low because I don't want to talk about him, but I guess I have to. He's so fucking punchable. Philip used to act superior to Dickers and would frequently cite him as an example of a content creator he's better than, right up until the moment that Philip wanted something from Dickers and that turned it all around and walked it back and tried to work with him instead. You're noticing a running theme, I'm sure. Dickers was chosen to be Philip's co-host for what he called the Level 666 podcast.
This is not the Level 1 podcast featuring RTU. At all. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Level 666 podcast, straight out of fucking hell.
This was the stream that occurred right at the tail end of the Kino Boys saga, the one where Philip was trying to get ahead of the DMs that he sent to Andy and Triple P, I call him Triple P, and tried to claim that they were all lies and that Philip was somehow snaking them.
The king snake is a creature. A snake.
That picture of Bill Gates with the cockatoo is the image that Dickers sent back to Philip after Philip sent him lots of long, rambling, cringy DMs. I think Dickers intended it to sort of be like a cool story, bro type reaction. At other times, Dickers has counted himself a DSP detractor, and not only that, but he fancies himself one of the top 5 detractors ever. No one else thinks this. Dickers has tried to be many things. He has tried to be a detractor, he has tried to be a partner of DSP, and he has tried to be a lolcow in his own right. He fails at all of these. He's an absolute waste. Closet coin / ace coin. To question Philip's sexuality is one of the Snortex's, no pun intended, low-hanging fruit. Viewers who watch Philip freak out at the sight of a woman in a video game make this accusation. Triple P has made this accusation. I call him Triple P because we're so close. And even Strangely Lex has done this. Now, Strangely Lex is an IRL streamer and bisexual woman whose sexuality Philip notably attempted to erase through his hateful rhetoric.
You said that she's a lesbian, but she says that she's bi.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, what you're participating in, Phil, is what's called bi erasure. And, I'm just surprised because you have in your title screen at the slideshow at the beginning that you're an LGBTQ ally. And yet, here you are erasing this woman's identity, telling her that you know what her identity is better than her.
It's an easy conclusion to draw, right? Philip does freak out at portrayals of women, and especially at portrayals of women's sexuality. His marriage and his previous relationship with Leanna never seemed especially passionate, and some of his attachments to certain men in his life do seem to have been much more emotionally intimate and profound, especially his lost friendship with John Rambo. But is it an open and shut case? I don't believe so. You see, I am invested in an unpopular currency, Ace Coin. I think Philip might be asexual. When he pursues others, he is always clearly pursuing something other than sex. Clout, domestic labor, status, validity. The act itself is incidental, less than incidental. When he speaks of sex, he doesn't even speak of it as something that he does, but rather as something that is done to him. And I don't think this is a pegging thing.
Yeah, I actually get laid by my wife.
Our boy is a lonely boy. Make no mistake, he is starved for most types of human contact. But one type of human contact for which he never had any appetite in the first place, at least in my opinion, is Eros. But Wolverine doll, you are already saying. What about that time he wanked it on stream? That was the number one thing on the iceberg. Everybody knows that. Well, yes. But asexual people do wank it sometimes. That doesn't really prove anything one way or the other. In fact, the faction known as Team No Load would argue that when he wanked it on stream, he didn't even reach a conclusion. What about the Desperate Measures saga? What about all the cases we know of Philip pursuing women earlier in his life? This, I think, was to prove to himself that he could. He didn't know how, and he had never successfully done it, but his entire culture was telling him that if he can't do this, he ain't nothing. Repression and self-denial go deep, and it's not just the homosexual gentlemen who feel it. Philip was raised Catholic in a Catholic school, and the idea of discovering something new about himself, especially at this age, is something he dismisses out of hand. But Wolverine doll, you may be now adding. What about John Rambo? What about Andy Warski? What about Triple P? I call him Triple P because we're so close, and Philip does the same. With John Rambo at least, yes, they were, for a moment, close. And now's probably as good a time as any to bring up that famous quote from C.S. Lewis that gets brought up now and then when speaking of the relationship between these two men. Those who cannot conceive of friendship as a substantive love, but only as a disguise or elaboration of eros, betray the fact that they have never had a friend. Incel Manifesto. Now, because I am a kindly and open-minded detractor, we're going to talk about what I think is the single strongest piece of evidence that Philip might be heterosexual. So, way back in 2003, when Philip was 21, he started posting to a part of the SRK forums that he wasn't supposed to be in. Specifically, the forum that was set aside for the women of that community to have a space of their own. Philip invaded this forum to hit on them, and then when that didn't go anywhere, to post an angry rant about women in general. Confusingly, our boy began with a caveat that he was not talking about any of them, even though he was saying it to them. Fucking figure that one out. I guess Philip never correctly analyzes the motivations for his own speech acts. Many of the things he says contradict the very reason he is saying them, such as, "I don't care about that," in reference to a subject he himself brought up. One woman on the forums tried to comfort our boy, telling him that there's probably someone out there for him, and there are a lot of, quote, truly interesting and wonderful women out there just waiting to be discovered if he would but keep an open mind and not lose hope. This was his response.
There are really, truly interesting and wonderful women? Shit, every woman I've ever known was either extremely selfish and self-centered, too busy feeling sorry for herself to do anything else, too annoying and or geeky to stand for more than 30 minutes, too stupid to listen to advice they asked for, doing stupid things, then complaining to you because they weren't totally against what you told them, a total slut, a total tease, leading you on and then crushing you under their boot when you finally let on that you like her, a total liar, so demanding that she expects you to read her mind like some kind of fucking psychic and never do anything unless it's with her. Don't be fooled. If she says you can go do something and she doesn't mind, she's lying and you'll pay for it later. Too full of herself, or just plain fucking crazy. Every single woman in my life fits one or more of the above, and every single one has let me down. You want to know why so many guys are so, quote, uninteresting, full of themselves, thinking they are the shit? Because women demand it. If a guy has no confidence, then that's no good. Women always whine they want a nice guy, and there are none of them left. Give me a fucking break. Women walk all over nice guys. Use them, abuse them, play with their hearts, but in the end, they always fuck them over. Cheat on them, break up with them, tell them, let's just be friends, or you need time apart, but then run off with some other guy, blah, blah, blah. The fact of the matter is, the women of America have become so fucking selfish, dishonest, and full of themselves. They have no fucking idea what it is they really want from a man. This is why so many guys have become that same overconfident asshole. Because if we're nice guys, we get walked all over and thrown away. Because we're too boring, or whatever other stupid fucking reason you give. At least if we act like total dicks, we can get laid once in a while. Damn superficial bitches. If you could make up your fucking minds what you wanted out of men, maybe more guys would try to be like that. But instead, you're never satisfied, and you go on forums complaining that all guys are the same overconfident assholes. Well, maybe if you weren't sleeping with or dating with that type of guy, and or cheating on / turning down that nice guy for that asshole stereotype you so loudly proclaim to be bad, so many guys wouldn't be trying to be like that in the first place, dumbass. So yeah, poon is good, video games are good, but women are a fucking waste of time and the #1 cause of bullshit and drama that men don't need.
Wow. As you can see, this is a type and degree of hatred toward women that typically only the straight man is capable of. I would also like to point out that in that list of 10 things he hates about women, 9 of them apply to himself. The only one that doesn't is being a huge slut. And also when he talks about how every single woman in his life has let him down, that includes Linda. He might actually be thinking about the Wolverine doll here. Object permanence. When a clip of Philip sucking acid video games goes viral on YouTube or Twitter or TikTok or whatever, a lot of people who have never been exposed to him assume that it must be an act. He's just going into clown mode for views, right? That's how this shit works. But no, he really is that bad. It's like uncanny. You watch him play and you think he must be jobbing, right? But no, he's doing his best. I think part of the reason he's so inhumanly bad, and to be clear, this is just a theory, is that he lacks object permanence. If you're not familiar with that term, object permanence is the ability to understand that things still exist when you are not looking at them. It is a skill picked up pretty early on in human development. The reason the game of peekaboo is so amusing to babies is because they don't have object permanence yet, and they truly don't know where the fuck you went. In the mind of P.P. Burnell, a video game should be a relentless and effortless march forward into victory. Literally forward. The only part of the game world he can conceive of is the one directly in front of him. Whenever he gets attacked from the side in Call of Duty or from behind in Mario Kart, he gets extremely flustered and confused, and sometimes literally says that that enemy just appeared out of nowhere.
I was driving absolutely perfectly. Something randomly hits me out of nowhere and knocks me off the track. Like, okay. Get hit by a random shell out of nowhere, nothing I can do about it. Wow, flattened out of nowhere.
He will get angry at RPGs like Clair Obscure Expedition 33 for having too many side quests. He can't route around the side quests. If he sees one in front of him, he must do it. Because it's in front of him. That's the game. It's right there. When he played Elden Ring for the first time and encountered the Tree Sentinel, that's that big man on a horse right outside the front door, he did not understand the intended message that this enemy's presence was trying to send. While other streamers were like, wow, this guy's hard, I'd better come back to him later, Philip decided that the best use of his and his viewers' time was to spend 90 minutes grinding this guy. Because he was in front of him. What an exciting day one stream. Philip never checks his mirrors when playing driving games or kart racers, and one can safely assume that he also never checks his mirrors when driving the Snortmobile out in the real world. This could well be one of the reasons he gets into so many car accidents. I'm actually going to get a little bit more into that later. Speaking of the Snortmobile, another one of the stories he's shared speaks to his lack of object permanence. When he was preparing to move from Connecticut to Washington, he went to his local BMW dealership to cancel his current lease. Makes sense, right? Well, he walked out of that dealership with a new lease on a new vehicle that he had agreed to have shipped across the country to Washington. The dealer told Philip that it is a, quote, buyer's market for cars, and this was very persuasive to Philip, even though he wasn't buying, he was leasing. The fact that Philip could be talked into this ridiculous transaction at all speaks to his inability to imagine that, perhaps, they have cars in Washington, because those cars aren't right in front of him. The Burnell Trigger. Have you ever been reading the work of an author who incorporates a lot of pop science, pop history, or current events into their work and thought they were pretty smart right up until they started writing about your area of expertise, and then you realized that this author was full of shit about your thing at least, and everybody else's thing probably? There is a similar phenomenon among those who watch Burnell. It is the Burnell Trigger. Detractors don't call it that. I'm calling it that right now. Your Burnell Trigger is the thing Burnell does that gets your blood in particular to a rolling boil. Everyone's Burnell Trigger is different, and I think you can learn a lot about a person by which of Burnell's mannerisms really get them fuming. For example, Fantastic Mr. Sam, as an accomplished video editor in particular, is really set off when Philip does something stupid with his video editing, or holds a handheld camera while swaying like an inflatable tube man.
Hi everyone, sorry, Sam here. I'm dizzy too. In fact, I cannot watch this footage without getting motion sick. I was going to go into a whole thing where I stopped the video and tried to stabilise it for you, but honestly, after a couple of attempts, I've come to realise that this footage is basically beyond help, so we're going to have to just put up with it. But understand that editing this video is making me fucking sick.
Broside Phil, as a bodybuilder-style individual, has the Burnell trigger of Philip lying about his exercise regimen.
Right. So right here, we're not even talking 45 degrees. That is bad.
Steve of the Dead has undergone serious back surgery and is still in the slow process of rehabilitation, And so naturally his Burnell trigger is when Burnell lies about his back problems.
It's just that from that point on, the rest of his life would involve lying about absolutely everything to do with his back, which makes getting straightforward answers to simple questions essentially impossible.
As you can see, your Burnell trigger often relates to your profession, your hobbies, or an experience you have gone through. It is whenever Burnell's activities touch something that, for whatever reason, you truly care about. So what's mine? Well, introspection can be hard, but boy, do I fucking hate when Burnell sings. And it's not that he's a bad singer. And make no mistake, he is a bad singer. No, it is the contempt you can hear in his voice for the very idea of singing. On the rare occasions when he bursts into song, he is usually expressing contempt for another person, and always expressing contempt for the idea that he would ever be caught dead singing, except as a joke.
You're a loser, Mr. Troll. You really are a dick. You spend all your time hating. You really make me sick, Mr. Troll. I'd suggest doing something creative, but you've got no talent.
When he accidentally sings something that people sincerely like, and I'm talking about the Tasty Banana song,
I need banana, tasty banana, put banana in my mouth, squeeze the peel, it comes in, then squeeze banana.
he gets angry if people ask him to sing it again, or ask how he came up with it.
Just like the banana song from Donkey Kong 64. Listen, I'm not mentally stunted. I don't know what you're referencing, stupid. Normal people don't sit to a little song that I improv during an N64 Donkey Kong playthrough and play it back 17 times a day listening to it like you're a mentally challenged idiot. No one understands your memes because they're dumb. They're for dumb children mouth droolers, you fucking morons. I don't understand what you're saying because I'm not on your level. I'm up here, you're down here, I can't hear you.
He didn't want you to like that, because that was a song. You know how songs are. Stroke. Boy's got a droopy mouth. On his right, our left, when he's not mirroring the footage, his mouth hangs down. He says he does this on purpose, but he always does it. It can't be voluntary. So some people ask, did the guy have a stroke at some point? It wasn't a sudden change. Looking back through his old videos, it seems like his mouth just slightly started drooping at some point in early 2016 and got gradually worse from there. If it were a stroke, you'd think it would be more sudden. You'd also think that he would have to break from streaming for a while. Because if it did happen, it definitely happened well after he started streaming full-time. Some detractors theorize that he has Bell's palsy, but that also can't be true. Bell's palsy clears up in like 6 months. It doesn't stay with you for 9 years. So what's the verdict? Well, as far as I can tell, our boy seems to have some kind of slowly degenerative nerve disease, possibly worsened by his constant alcohol abuse. Beyond that is well beyond my expertise to say anything about. Maybe we just leave it where many people do and say he is melting. Flying monkeys. Flying monkeys is the detractor term for dents or LARPers who bring news to Philip behind the scenes, either via email or via his secret Discord server. Whenever Philip needs to display knowledge of some detractor activity, but doesn't want to admit that he watches detractor content, he will explain that a flying monkey told him.
I don't care about my detractor content. I don't watch it. I don't watch detractors' content whatsoever. I don't even know what this video was. I don't give a shit.
When he does this, it invites speculation as to whether that flying monkey was real. Like, how many of these avian primates are there really in line to land on his window and hoot a new piece of detractor news into his ear? We can never know for sure. All we can say is that some of them are almost certainly fake, and the real ones are almost certainly all LARPers. Phil's genuine dents seldom have any awareness of detractor activity in the Snortex. Through a pig's eye, darkly. What does the beggar see? We've talked about his limited awareness of things he can't see. Now let's talk about his vision itself. This is actually more interesting than it sounds. His real life is not 3D speech suggests a lack of depth perception as the origin for his lack of depth belief. The guy has said that he is nearsighted, and this fits in with many of the things we see, such as him needing to lean in quite close to read the chat. Nearsightedness would also make it difficult to drive, as without corrective lenses, Philip would not be able to read signs or see cars coming. Now, Philip owns a pair of prescription glasses, and he only uses them to take driver's tests. Not to drive, just to prove to the state governments he's lived under that he can drive. He never wears them while driving on his day off, as the states of both Connecticut and Washington have assumed he does. This is just about the most fucked up black comedy in the Snortex, with its only rivals being when Philip is exploiting the dead and dying.
My problem is my distance vision. My distance vision ain't so hot. And so I have glasses for when I'm driving, and I'm going to be going like long distances. And like driving on the highway, I need to wear glasses because my distance vision is not great. Look at this sheep kicking his heels up.
Some of his viral videos of him sucking shit at games cannot be sufficiently explained by a lack of object permanence. Specifically, in Mario Kart, he will crash into obstacles that are right in front of him.
What just hit me? I have no fucking clue.
Static obstacles that he should have seen coming a mile away. He will also complain that these things have appeared out of nowhere.
Great. Oh, I could really see that. There was no way to see it. Just completely bad luck again.
Now, is his TV screen just too far away so that everything is a blur? Or perhaps he has a blind spot near the center of his field of view, what the medieval glassblowers would refer to as a glory hole. Base camp. Base camp is an ottoman that used to be in the bedroom of the Snort Fort. When he was rearranging things, Philip moved it out into the hallway near the top of the stairs. Why are we talking about this? Because Philip mentioned that in its new location, base camp would be a nice place to rest after the grueling ascent up the stairs of the Snort Fort and before continuing the journey to the pig pen or the bedroom.
You sit on it like, oh, this is nice and comfy out here. It's actually a nice little resting spot right in the middle of the hallway where you can relax.
The Snort Fort only has 2 floors and 1 flight of stairs. This is a pretty deep cut, but goddamn if it isn't one of my favorite obscure detractor memes. The Cannon Brothers. Tom and Tony Cannon are absolute pillars of the fighting game community. They created EVO, the fighting game tournament series where Philip won 4th place in that fluke back in 2005. In light of this, you'd think that Philip would admire and respect them, as the ones who made possible the closest thing that Philip will ever have in his life to an achievement. But no, Philip was not built for admiration. Instead, he despises these two because they also provided another invaluable service to the fighting game community. They invented rollback netcode, which is the preferred netcode for online fighting games today, near universally accepted by the community as the good one. I say near universally because, wouldn't you know it, there is one holdout.
to say it, like most of these games with their rollback netcode, there should be an alternative to rollback, but the problem is no one's developing it because everyone just kisses rollback's ass and won't admit that rollback netcode has issues. So oh, this is great. No, it's not.
The Cannon brothers were so passionate about their invention that they wanted everyone to use it immediately, just to improve the community, and therefore they never patented it. It went on to be used by many fighting game developers, including Capcom, the makers of the Street Fighter series that our boy holds so dear.
But rollback netcode is not the
so
solution.
when Philip is losing at Street Fighter, he has to blame it on something. It can't be his fault. He will often blame his opponent, but I think sometimes even he notices the problem with insulting the intelligence of someone who just outsmarted you. Therefore, he loves to blame the netcode.
The better a connection supposedly is with rollback, the more inputs are dropped.
His angry rants about rollback netcode are truly insane and make no sense if you do the slightest amount of research into what rollback netcode is. It contradicts everything our boy says about it. For example, he thinks it involves rolling dice, using random numbers.
No skill to that, it's gambling. It's just rolling dice, rolling dice, rolling dice, rolling dice. That's all there is to it. There's nothing to that at all. Oh, roll the dice, roll the dice, roll the dice. Will I ever get out of this corner? You're playing fucking Vegas stakes.
No, it does not. He also thinks that it rewards extremely repetitive play patterns because it predicts the game several seconds into the future.
Rollback netcode says, oh, predict what happened. Oh, he pressed medium kick because he mashed it a few more times. Because basically, that's rollback. Rollback is literally always favor the masher, which is stupid as shit. Why would you always favor a button masher? But that's what rollback does.
When in fact, it only predicts a few frames into the future, and if it turns out to have gotten them wrong, it will roll itself back and change it. That's what Anyway, Philip even claims that the Cannon brothers told him in confidence that rollback netcode is a scam that they are using to deceive video game developers.
And I called them out on it, and they admitted it. And they said to me, yes, what you're saying is true, but don't say it publicly because we're trying to sell GGPO to companies to use in video games, and if you say that, they're not going to buy it. That was outright fucking said to me directly by the Cannon brothers.
Scam them how? I don't know, because as I said, they're not patenting this. No one believes this, but I have a theory. And that theory is, what if they did tell him this? Hear me out. Rollback netcode first came out in 2006 when Philip was still going to fighting game tournaments and still having some amount of human contact. He probably had some tangential contact with the Cannon brothers at tournaments. At this point, as we've established, Philip was a pest, despised by most of the fighting game community. He had earned the moniker King of Hate, and people were turning down free rides to tournaments just because Philip was offering them. He was an ass, and a year after his 4th place at EVO, he had failed to do anything else of note. So, he was a joke through and through. So what if, at a tournament or something, the Cannon brothers saw our boy and came up with a devilish idea? They would find some semi-private place to talk to Philip, where they would tell him a story that they knew no one would ever believe. That's the theory, that they did tell him this shit, but they told it to him as a prank. Occam's razor. Occam's razor is the simple rule of thumb that Philip Burnell always takes the path of least effort through any situation. Seems pretty simple on the face of it, but it can be used to infer things that Philip has not directly revealed. For example, Philip locks Jasper in the bedroom with him every night, where there is no litter box. This means that Jasper often has to wake Philip up early in the morning, so that he can be let out to relieve himself.
Walk me through a day of Phil.
Okay.
Like when you from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep.
Usually I don't wake up. Usually my cat wakes me up. We don't have a litter box in the bedroom because in the bedroom, if we leave the litter box in there, it traps the smell overnight, and it smells really bad if he uses the bathroom. So we would always tell him, go to the bathroom at night and then come with us in the room. We close the door, we go to sleep. In the morning, we open it up, he goes, uses the bathroom, just like us. We wake up, we use the bathroom, whatever.
This appears to be a direct violation of Occam's razor. Why the fuck would Philip do this when it would be less effort and more sense to just leave the bedroom door open so that his cat can come and go in the night as he pleases? Well, as it turns out, this was our first piece of evidence that Philip had secret pets. He cannot leave Jasper alone with these secret pets because either Jasper would kill them or they would kill Jasper. Now, the best solution to this would be better training for his pets or more secure enclosures, but those would require more effort than just closing a bedroom door. So as you can see, when something appears to violate Occam's razor, we must ask ourselves, what unknown circumstances would make this actually conform to Occam's razor? It's much more likely that something odd is happening that Philip is trying to take the easy way out of than it is that he would suddenly start applying effort of his own free will. Burnell's Law. Burnell's Law is another adage that can be used to describe and predict the behavior of P.P. Burnell. It states that if P.P. Burnell has said something, he has also said the opposite. There are some subjects on which he continues to stand mute, but if he has expressed an opinion, you can find him expressing the opposite opinion somewhere else. If he has stated a fact, you can find him expressing a contradictory fact somewhere else.
So, have I ever punched a bee? I can literally tell you I have. I have straight up bee bothering me, and I went boom, and I punched it straight on, and the bee went flying. That's happened. Have I ever punched a bee? No, I slapped the bee away before. I've never punched one straight up. I don't think you really could.
This is due to a combination of the sheer volume of video content the guy has created, combined with his inability to keep his own lies straight. We're near the bottom of the iceberg now, so if you're this far, you may have some interest in doing your own research into the life and times of the guy. So for that, there is no better research tool than pigpiggo.net. This is a search engine that searches the auto-generated captions of every one of Philip's videos, and it can tell you all the times Philip has said a particular word or phrase. It can even construct line graphs showing trends in how he uses a word or phrase. This can be used for artistic purposes, assembling real clips of Phil's voice into almost whatever you want.
Missing all my shots. Stormtrooper. Eating more shit than a pooper scooper. Always feeling like a gouty outsider. Till finally one day, I got 4th place in a Street Fighter game 4 people played.
Or it can simply be used to illustrate Phil's hypocrisy.
It took him how many tries? 139? That, I'm gonna be honest with you, that's not that hard.
I just wanted to have fun, play the game as like the average gamer, the Joe gamer.
However, my favorite type of Burnellian hypocrisy does not require cross-referencing statements he made years apart. My favorite type is the hypocrisy speedrun. This is when Philip makes a statement and then immediately follows it up with an opposite or contradictory statement. Frame perfect.
All those people who made negative memes about me for the last decade to get a joke, to get a laugh, literally, if those people never existed, they'd have zero impact on anything. Zero. The whole mentality of this groupthink nonsense is just that. It's nonsense. Oh, jokes on for joke's sake, and it's all just jokes. Yeah, but at what expense? What did you do? You fucked with the fabric of how things worked because you wanted to have a memeable existence for 10 fucking years. As much of a joke that you wanted to make me out to be for 10 years, but you wanted to think about what might have happened in the last 10 years if I was actually able to add to interesting topics, actually be respected for my opinions, Gamergate.
For example, he will often say that he doesn't know about something and then immediately combo into a demonstration of his knowledge of it.
I don't know anything about Joker 2. Joker 1, I really liked. Saw it years after it had been out, and I really enjoyed it. But apparently, from what I'm hearing, Joker 2 is not doing well at all. That Joker 2 is a completely different kind of movie. You could tell they wanted to try to do something different.
I'm not kidding you. I have no idea what anyone has said about me since March. I pay no attention whatsoever. I only hear about it when you guys come on my streams and say stuff in the chat.
I don't know anything about him. I don't. I really don't know besides what people have told me.
Valedictorian, how? As Philip will proudly tell you, he was the valedictorian of his graduating class in high school.
People asked me about my school days, and I said, well, I was the valedictorian of both my elementary school and my high school.
This is not a lie. This is a matter of public record, and it has been looked up and verified. So, how?
And everyone's like, Phil's too stupid to be valedictorian. There's no fucking way.
I'd call the guy a himbo, but himbos have to be good looking. The theory that he was one of those so-called gifted kids who test very well and perform very well in a classroom environment but can't transfer that to the real world is not really a theory that holds water. When Philip plays games that have challenges very similar to tests that you would receive in school, most notably in the game Bully, he fails these with flying colors.
Oh my god. I have no... Spain is here.
No, I'm sorry, that is incorrect.
I have no idea.
Wrong.
Tallest? Empire State Building. Fastest.
Philip's high school was a private Catholic high school, and as such, it did not have to follow any standardized rules for how it selects its valedictorian. There is a chance that the metric they used was flawed. For example, perhaps it was based on raw GPA and did not take into account how many of those class credits were low-level or remedial classes. This is similar to how Chris Chan got on honor roll back in the day, but I have got to stop myself from getting deeper into that shit. Phillips High School was not a good school. It was known more for athletics than academics. However, you'd think in any group of that many kids, there'd be one who can outperform Phil with the oddly shaped head. So I guess I have kind of a minor theory here, which is that Phil was never a nice kid, but he was at one point kind of a smart kid. Like, don't get me wrong, he was still a weirdo and his mom still combed his hair until he was 17, but he tested well. Maybe. And then something happened to him. And that something was almost certainly alcohol. Phil was never popular as a schoolboy. He says the crew he ran with were those who didn't have a crew. The dregs of the schoolyard culture.
I was one of those kids, I was in the clique that wasn't a clique. The misfit group of kids.
This may have started his lifelong quest for belonging. During and after high school, he was in search of communities that would not turn him away, and he found the fighting game community. From there, he tried to fit in by drinking. He drank quite a lot, and it made him quite dumb quite fast. That's the theory anyway. Hypotheticals. Let's wheel back to the Q&A section of the Level 1 podcast, because if you watch enough of these, you'll notice something odd. There are categories of question that make our boy angry, and one of them is a category you would not expect. For example, Philip, would you rather live in the mountains or on the beach? Philip, if you ever did open a sandwich shop, what would you call it? Philip, what would your DJ name be? That's a Pat Sajak question, one of the few that he outright refused to answer.
Do you have a DJ name? No one here is talking about being a DJ, so what the fuck are you talking about? What are you talking about? Who's a DJ? I'm not DJing anywhere.
This is just the type of softball dog shit question that he seems to want, so why does it set him off so badly? And why can't he ever answer them with a straight answer? You might think it is because he is afraid someone will quote him later and somehow catch him in a contradiction, but this is not a type of caution that Philip displays when telling lies. So why would he display it now when answering a meaningless question that no one would ever cite his answer to later? The natural theory that arises from this is that Philip's imagination is one of the many djinn-damaged parts of his brain. And there's more. We can see other contexts in which someone in Philip's position would be expected to use a little imagination. When Philip is playing a game with a character creator, he tends to create a self-portrait.
Looks just like me, of course.
Oh, there goes my sexy Italian fantasy.
The eyes. What the?
No spicy sausage for me.
In games that let you name things, selling the rights to name something is one of Philip's favorite viewer rewards because he never has any ideas for what to name things himself.
If you're someone who's watching this on demand, you weren't here live, and you want to name a Pokemon, you can. Remember, it's a $25 contribution, but you can name a Pokemon. That Pokemon hits the party, and then they stay in the party for that stream. And, you know, it's gone well, right?
Philip's one foray into creative writing that we have seen, Project 7, is a regurgitation of what Philip has seen in video games and in video essays about video games. Philip might also lack a theory of mind, which is the ability to make educated guesses about what other people are thinking and feeling. This would contribute to his lack of empathy, and it would also explain his most common characterizations for his opponents in competitive games. He always seems to think that the opponent is either following a prepared flowchart or choosing moves completely at random. The idea that the opponent might have got a read on him does not cross his mind, nor does he attempt to get a read on them in return. This is odd because reading the opponent is a crucial part of fighting games. The wildest example of Philip dodging a hypothetical question is when someone asked him which side he would take if he were to go back in time to the American Civil War.
You time travel to the American Civil War. Which side would you pick if you got the choice? You're gonna ask me, the Mr. Complete Opposite of a history buff, to answer a question like that. What a foolish thing.
This is fucking wild. He couldn't even go by which state he lived in, or his foreknowledge of who wins. Philip is not beating those allegations of racism anytime soon. The play about Oedipus Rex has a plot that is very complex. He murders his pa, then marries his ma while the chorus sings songs about sex. As we have mentioned, Philip has mistakenly referred to his wife as his mother on multiple occasions. This suggests that these two women occupy the same room in his mind palace. Jesus Christ, this video keeps trying to pull me back into talking about Chris Chan. I'm gonna keep it as short as possible. I'm gonna address this as fast as I can before I get pulled into the Chris Chan singularity. Does Phil lust after Linda? I believe that no, he does not. Phil is the converse of Chris Chan, I believe. Whereas Chris Chan sees all women as sex objects, Philip sees them all as mother figures. This causes them both problems with the women in their lives who do not belong in their favorite category. I believe that this is also why Philip is repulsed by sexualized women in video games. He sees them all as Linda Burnell. If she is a woman and Philip can see her, he sees Linda Burnell. It must be a nightmare to live that way. Whew, okay. That little maneuver probably cost us a lot of time, but we are out of it now. Are you ready? We're at the last one. We're at the fucking sea floor. This one's a doozy. The Coomer's Journey. This one comes straight from Mrs. the Wolverine doll, and while I do not believe that it is literally true, I cannot deny its mythic resonance. It makes for a hell of a big finish. Before we get to the theory, we must lay our foundation of fact. It starts with Philip's story of his senior prom. Now, all this information was volunteered by Philip during a fan mail Q&A segment. The viewer who asked the question was almost certainly a LARPer because they phrased the question in a way seemed calculated to bring out Philip's animus toward authority figures and women. Our boy really wanted to go to the senior prom, but he wasn't prepared to do so without a date, lest he disgrace himself.
If you didn't go to prom and you did not have a girlfriend, for example, who you were taking to prom, or there's potential that she would become your girlfriend because you were taking her to prom, you missed nothing. Zero. Okay? The bottom line is prom is incredibly expensive. It is a nerve-wracking time.
And this was a problem for young Philip as he had no prospects. No woman would give him the time of day for some reason.
I was one of those kids, I was in the clique that wasn't a clique. The misfit group of kids.
He did not even bother asking the classmate he had had his eye on for 2 years, as his fixation on her had already soured into hatred.
In high school, I had one girl who I was sweet on. I had a crush on her, hardcore crush, for like 2 years straight. After 2 years of her telling her she wasn't going to go out with me, I said, no, she's not going to go out with me, she's not, fuck it. I don't care anymore. I didn't even bother asking the girl who I had the crush on for 2 years. I said, fuck her.
Instead, he asked out a different classmate whom he felt he had a chance with. He tells us that this was an Asian-style individual. I don't know what he thinks that adds to the story, but what it actually adds is a little more context for his specific brand of racism.
There was another girl who was kind of the nerdy girl in school. She was an Asian girl, but she was cute. I thought she was cute, and I was friendly with her.
This classmate attempted to let our boy down easy, offering various reasons why asking her out would be a bad idea. Philip did not pick up on her polite refusal, and to this day he seems to not understand what she was going for.
And I asked her out, and she acted like I was punking her. You're not really serious. You don't want to go to prom with me. I was like, yes, I do. No, you don't want to go to prom with me. I don't believe you. You're punking me. This will be a joke, or you'll regret it afterwards. Or maybe you're trying to find the girl that's easy or whatever. And when she said that, I said, enough. I said, you know what? I don't need your bullshit, your drama. I was trying to be nice. Maybe go to prom with someone who I was friendly with in school. Fuck you.
Shamed by this rejection, he reached out to another final classmate who had recently broken up with someone and was making overtures toward going to prom with anyone who could buy her a ticket.
A girl breaks up with her boyfriend, okay? All of a sudden, she has no one to go to prom with.
Now, she told Philip that he and this other gentleman in their class were both maybes.
There's this one other guy who I've also asked her, both maybes, basically.
That was the last interaction they had when Philip decided that maybe meant yes and bought tickets on spec.
So I thought about it for about a night. I said, fuck it, shoot the J, let's do it. I buy the tickets, everything, talk to my parents. My parents were like, we thought you didn't have a girlfriend. I don't.
When he discovered that she went with the other gentleman instead, which may have always been her intention, he was very angry. He got refunds for his tickets, and he decided not to go to prom at all.
Next day I go to school. Oh, I'm going out with the other guy. What? I'm going with the other guy. Well, you asked me, you said if I got the tickets we would go. Yeah, he got tickets too, so I'm going with him. I was like, fuck you. And I got so fucking pissed at her. I was like, what the fuck is your problem? There's this one other guy who I've also asked her, both maybes, basically.
He would tell the viewer asking him this question that he was not missing anything by not going to prom, even though Philip would not know that as someone who did not go to prom.
That was my prom experience. I didn't go. You missed nothing. Zero. Okay? I didn't go.
All right, those are our facts. From here, we depart into pure speculation. Are you sitting comfortably? Fasten your goggles. We are about to make a hard takeoff into nonsense territory. All right, so it's prom night. Philip cannot hang out with any of his friends because they are at prom. Philip also cannot stay at home with his family because they know everything. He told them every step of his embarrassing search for a date. What is a boy to do? Well, according to this theory, our boy hit the mean streets of Bridgeport. He attempted to socialize with people who knew nothing of his shame, and he found a young woman who reminded him of someone, that classmate who rejected him for the first time, forced him to be here, bruised his ego. Now, in truth, these two women probably looked nothing alike to anyone but Philip, but to Philip, They were both Asian-style women and therefore identical.
In China, they say, rashness brings success to few.
In China, they say, Chiggy Chang Wang Charlie Chan Chicka Chaka Choka Cha.
Shut the fuck up.
Shame, hatred, desire, a possessive jealousy overtook our boy, and he rizzed as he never rizzed before. Against all odds, he finagled his way into a one-night stand with this woman. Now, this was never an arrangement that could last for long. This woman quickly learned what sort of person Philip was, deeply regretted her night with him, and wanted nothing to do with him further. She then moved away to start a new life in the land of Canada. She never reached out to Philip again, not even to tell him that she was with child. That's right, this theory is about Philip being Derek's biological father. And not only that, this theory is about how Derek's relationship with his father will follow the steps of the hero's journey, the monomyth, as codified in Joseph Campbell's work, The Hero with 1,000 Faces. Now, Campbell was attempting to codify an explanation for all myths and legends everywhere, and while he may not have quite succeeded at that, he was onto something. A common problem with a common solution, discovered by many storytellers and myth makers across history and the world. You see, when those in power request stories about how they or their ancestors came to power, the storyteller will run into a little problem, and that is that there are really only two ways to get power. You can take it by force, or you can inherit it, and neither is that good a look. So how do you glorify someone who logically must have been either a conqueror or a nepo baby? And the answer is, you split the difference. The monomyth is about bridging the gap between the concept of taking something and inheriting it. The hero of a monomyth is typically an heir in exile, someone who has a blood right to great power but does not live as though he does, and in fact probably does not yet know that he does. The hero lives in a familiar, mundane world, but is called to adventure and must cross the threshold into the unknown world of the fantastic, where heroic trials await him. This is the world from whence his blood right derives. After succeeding at the trials and challenges laid out before him to prove his worth, he makes peace with his new understanding of the world and his more significant place in it. He then returns to become master of two worlds. Where were we? Oh yes, the Canadian boy who posts porn even on his public Facebook where his family sees. That's our hero, ladies and gentlemen. So, the hero's journey begins with the call to adventure, and in this case, Derek has received no more compelling call to adventure than his own sexual awakening. Puberty must have been quite an eye-opener for young Derek. Often there is a refusal of the call. Having things awaken in you is probably scary, and to the extent that his mother taught him that these urges were to be kept under control, he has understood that crossing this threshold has consequences. He might have overcome the odds and become a functioning member of society were it not for the next step in the hero's journey meeting him by chance, or perhaps by fate. Meeting the mentor. That's right, this is when Derek starts following Darksydephil. Maybe it was dumb luck, or maybe his mother gently guided him in the right direction, realizing that she could not understand all the forces boiling within young Derek. And if anyone could, it was the one who gave him those urges through his corrupted seed. As Derek crosses the threshold into degeneracy, Philip teaches him the ways of the entitled piece of shit. Derek meets both allies and enemies. Certainly no shortage of enemies, as both detractors and true dyed-in-the-wool dents find his presence annoying. Often the hero will fail at least one of the challenges presented in this half of the hero's journey, and for Derek, that probably comes in the form of the next stage, meeting the goddess. This is where young Derek realizes that some of his favorite actors and actresses have live streams that he can join and be a pest in, most notably Reese Robbins. Derek is such a piece of shit toward Ms. Robbins that he is forced to apologize to her, throwing himself down in supplication and begging for her mercy and grace. The next step of the journey plays into the weird Madonna whore complex found both within many myths and within Derek himself. Woman as temptress. You see, even though Derek threw himself down before Reese's mercy, this subordination was false. It was never a moment of introspection for Derek to learn and improve. No, indeed, after this, young Derek would double down, blaming his own victims for what he believes to be tempting him, drawn onward to greater feats of harassment. Derek might well draw inspiration from Philip, his father, who also displays this weird duality of emotion toward women, where he believes that women are simultaneously too sacred to be sexualized, but also too filthy and disgusting to respect. And this leads us to more or less the present moment in the Derek saga, the supreme ordeal. This is, of course, when Derek would be banned from Philip's chat. Since this is a theory, we can embellish the interactions that may have happened behind the scenes.
Your mother never told you what happened to your father.
She told me enough. She told me you killed him.
No, that was T. T is not your father. You would look different. I am your father.
No, that's not Two. That's impossible.
Search your feelings, Derek. You know it to be true.
I'll never join you.
Well, that's good, because I'm banning you now. Get beyond.
No! No! So what does the future hold for young Derek? Well, we can look ahead to future steps of the hero's journey. Seizing the sword. If there's one thing Derek loves to do, it's seize the sword. Hell, he can barely let go of the goddamn thing. Death and resurrection. Now this is a metaphorical death and resurrection, as Derek abandons his former system of sock accounts and creates a new one under an assumed identity, and returns triumphantly to Philip's chat, waiting for the right moment to expose himself. Not that way, not this time. And here we are at the emotional climax of the hero's journey and Derek's entire life. Atonement with the father. Derek knows the truth of his birth now, so does Philip. Neither of them have ever been particularly subtle people. Now it is time for the world to know. Casting away the last influence of the Kino Casino boys, Philip proudly announces that Derek has returned to his chat, where he will remain. Furthermore, he acknowledges Derek as his one and only begotten son. Phil's obsession with his legacy takes on a new and much more bombastic form. Next stage, Magic Flight. This is typically the hero returning to the familiar world with the boon he fought so hard to win. But in this case, it is Philip flying to Toronto to see his son, leaving Kat at home, still never having gone on a honeymoon. Master of Two Worlds. The hero is now returned with great knowledge and power, both in the familiar world and in the fantastic world of his patrimony. This stage represents Derek gaining a skill he never had before, a skill he could only learn from his father. How to isolate and victimize vulnerable people to get them to do what you want. In Philip's case, that is cooking for him. In Derek's case, it does not end there by a long sight. Young Derek is now a menace in both the digital and analog spheres. Final stage of the hero's journey is freedom to live. Now, this does not represent freedom from consequences, but rather freedom from fear of death, and freedom from doubt in one's place in the world. Because in a more literal sense, at this stage in his journey, Derek will be in a Canadian prison serving a long sentence for his many sex crimes. But in a figurative sense, Derek is free. Free from fear and free from doubt as he busts nuts against the prison wall until he dies. Level 5. Go home. Well, folks, that's it. That's all I've got. This is not every meme in the Snortex, of course. I couldn't ever do that, because Philip makes a new meme practically every time he speaks. I know there are some big ones I missed. If you can think of any, leave them as comments. If there are questions in your heart that remain unanswered, ask them in the comments. I'm sure some brave citizen will step forward and help you. Until next time, take care of yourselves, don't take any of this shit too seriously, and never, ever give Philip money.